Welcome back, friends. LostScarf here, and we're doing another Basically podcast. This is number 45. We're almost at 50. And
Wow.
today we are talking with Titanium Steel. And it's like, whenever you want to rant, it's time for a podcast, is what I've noticed. Like, I couldn't get... I'd like to get other guests, but it's the holiday, so it's hard to get people sometimes. And so you want to talk about Wonder Woman 1984.
Yeah.
And a lame joke someone said was like, World War 84? There were 83 more wars after the first one? And then the other ones you want to talk about Tenet. And then after that, let's talk about whatever we want. So, straight up spoilers coming up. Yeah. And just skip at your own risk to see what else is in here.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I don't think it's one of those things like Wonder Woman 1984. I feel like people wouldn't really care if they got it spoiled. It's not the movies. That's the thing this year. The movies were so the big release was kind of bludgeoned, you know, like what do you there's none of these movies came out the way they were supposed to, so at this point I think everything is spoilerable
because it all got streamed for the most part. Well, Tenet was in theaters, and I don't even know if Tenet was the biggest box office hit with 56 million.
No, I'm pretty sure Sonic was.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, I feel like you have to put the category of pre the virus and post the virus. Pre the virus, I think Sonic wins. Post, maybe Tenet, because Tenet's the only big movie that came out that wasn't on a streaming service initially. But yeah, before the virus, we got Sonic, so we had something good before that, and you can argue it's a monkey's paw for somebody. Like we got a good Sonic movie, and then the rest of the year was crap after that.
Was it good? I have not seen it.
Oh, it's as far as video game movies go, it's pretty good. As a Sonic movie goes, it's pretty good. As a movie, oh my god, there's some things that are so bad it's good about it.
Okay.
The product placement is in your face, and I feel like it's funny how on the nose it is, and they just had to know they were just how on the nose they were being about it. It's funny what they do with the product placement, but you can be very cynical about it too. At the end of the day,
like Jim Carrey?
Jim Carrey is really good. Like the leads are really good in this. So the voice actor for Sonic, whose name I don't remember right now,
Schwartz.
He's on DuckTales.
Yep.
And he's really good as Dewey in DuckTales as well. So it's basically Dewey Duck as Sonic. And if you like Dewey Duck, he's really good in this too. He's a very entertaining Sonic. I like him a lot. And Jim Carrey as Robotnik is just him having fun, which is something that's rare these days with Jim Carrey. He's actually having fun doing this role. And it's like, it's definitely just Ace Ventura got older. That's really what it is. He's not doing the butt stuff anymore, but he's just being wild, and it's pretty funny.
It did seem like he was letting loose.
Mm-hmm. So it's an enjoyable movie, but it's the run. You already know what's going to happen in this story, kind of thing. Like it just plays by the numbers, but it was still entertaining for what it was. Like, if you're going in there expecting the greatest video game movie of all time, you're not going to get that, but it's up there. Yeah. I think... Well, that's not even a high bar. I think the best video game movies are probably Detective Pikachu, Sonic's up there, the original Mortal Kombat's up there. And then after that, better. I don't know. Oh, they've definitely gotten better. I think it's because it's just after, I don't know, 2 decades of just people hating everything. That's been video game movies. Maybe they're going to finally do some work with it.
Like,
but then Monster Hunter happened, so I don't know.
Right? Yeah, that's true. I'm not even going to count that. It's weird to me that video games have been so big for so long, and yet we're just now getting Hollywood to like understand what is happening with the properties. You know, like so many of the adaptations don't even fit with the games really, or understand the core of it. And I feel like at least starting with Detective Pikachu, that one really understood the world, and it was faithful to it. and it did a good job, I think, of putting those characters into a real life setting and aesthetic and whatnot. Well, like merging the two.
It did for sure. Because I think video game movies from the start were just really cynical. Because the Super Mario Brothers movie was an extremely cynical movie. Holy crap! And it just went downhill from there. Because another one is the Resident Evil series is extremely cynical. It's not great. And then you got the U-Ball video game movies, which are just absolutely they're not the best. They're not even like straight to DVD good. They're just awful movies. This is unfortunate. But comic book movies have done way better. Jesus. Well, okay, eventually they did better. At one point it was only Batman had good comic book movies. Like, sure, people like the old Donner Superman, people like Christopher Reeve Superman. I guess 1, 2, maybe, no, not 3. 1 and 2 people loved the Superman, and then 3, 4, and 5 people just didn't care for. And then there's this gap. And then Tim Burton's Batman comes out, and that's pretty good. And then I forget the name of the second Batman right now. Batman Returns, I think. That people like that one, and then you hit Batman Forever, and then it starts to get a bit more cartoony from there.
Yeah. That's weird to me though. I don't even consider the early Superman, the I almost said Keanu Reeves. Oh, I don't consider the Keanu Reeves Superman movies as part of a comic book movie. As part of that formula, because it really did start with like X-Men, with how they reimagined it as like, we're gonna be serious, because those Superman movies, it's too it's just from a different time. It's just a completely different time and era, and just the tone of that. If you compare that with like the tone of any of the more recent Superman efforts, it's completely different.
Yeah.
You have to be so much more dark and gritty, and you have to be grounded in reality, and it can't just be like a wholesome endeavor anymore, because I guess it's just a different time. I think it would be interesting to see someone really do it. I mean, the 2006 one, directed by a alleged sexual predator, in Bryan Singer. I don't know. I don't know why I decided to do that, but I mean,
well, he is.
Whatever. Allegedly, yeah.
He allegedly is. The 2006 effort was, and it's supposed to be a sequel to 2, I think. To 2 or 3. It's like he's trying to just be that Superman, like continue that story. That's what he was trying to do.
Do you mean like spiritual successor?
Well, it's called Superman Returns. It's straight up supposed to be just a sequel to it.
Did I miss that?
I will say yes.
I have not seen that movie since 2006, so honestly, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Did they not do an origin story?
No, it's supposed to be. That's why it's called Returns, because he's coming back. Like, it's been like a full-on time skip. He's got a kid now. He didn't know he had a kid and all that stuff.
Okay. Yeah, that's been it. Wow, okay. It's been ages. But that was close. That was close. But it still is not as... It doesn't have that kind of... Hello, I'm here to save the day! Kind of ho-hum, goody two-shoes. Still not quite there.
It would be interesting to see
shot in the eyeball.
Yeah, like that's the one shot everyone remembers.
Saves the plane. We've had the boys to riff on that scene, actually, with the plane. What am I supposed to do? There's no, I have no leverage. It's just air.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see someone tackle wholesome Superman again. That would be interesting, because the whole idea is he's just so powerful that he can be wholesome if he wants. Like, he doesn't have to be gritty, because he's just that OP. Right. I don't know how you can tackle that, because everyone wants grit now, so...
Right.
I have no idea. Like, that's a challenge you can try to take on, if you want people out there.
I feel like the way you'd have to do it is just give him, like, put him in compromising situations, but not physically. I don't think you can't... You have to make it so that he can't just do anything. He can't literally do anything because then he could just solve any problem. But if you give him like moral conundrums, basically, and it's like you got to pick one of two choices here. You have to navigate it somehow and find a way to maintain your pristine character through something that, you know, has seemingly no good option. I feel like that's the way you do it.
They attempted that at the end of Superman, Zack Snyder Superman, where he's like, snap his neck or he's gonna kill his family. He's like, how about you close his eyes? Just put your hand over his eyes. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, that was horrible.
He had many options. He didn't just have snap his neck. But yeah, like
it's actually. Isn't it weird how no one thought of that? You know, like he could have, the amount of things he could have done. He could have picked him up in the air. He could have moved his neck instead of snapping his neck. He could have just like pointed it in a different direction.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that scene play out in my head right now, and it's so corny how Zod is like lasering towards him, and then he like looks at the family and like the kids, and he's like, "Oh no, the laser!" It just treats you like you're such an idiot. Like, look what's happening. He's got to do something, and then you know he just kills him. Why? Yeah. And right in front of the kids. That wasn't nice.
Yeah. Well, the problem with that movie is, and the problem I have with Zack Snyder is, I don't think he understands his characters. Well, he understands the characters how he thinks he understands his characters. Because he has that whole rant where if you don't think Batman kills people, you're wrong. Like, I don't know. I've got decades of proof that he doesn't, except for original Batman. Original Batman killed a lot of people. But we haven't had that version of Batman for decades. But he's like, if you don't think Batman's killed people, you're wrong. I was like, the whole point is he doesn't kill people. That's the whole freaking point. That's his whole thing.
Yeah. There is something to be said. There is something to be said, though, for the amount of just physical force he uses, and you're somehow supposed to believe he doesn't kill people at times. You know, like I was playing this Spider-Man game, Miles Morales.
Yeah.
Just for a little bit, and your character, like, you can grab somebody's gun and like bash them over the head with it and like the back of the skull. And I'm just sitting there like, this is the most violent Spider-Man you've ever seen, and you know he's killing people, but you know they don't treat it like that.
My guess commentary on making superhero movies, like Wonder Woman 1, the first one is early in the movie, she's straight up killing soldiers. She's sorting them, she's shooting them with bows and arrows, all that stuff. Later on, when they do the No Man's Land scene, they purposely make it that she doesn't kill anyone. She's breaking guns, she's punching people, she's throwing people. But she's hitting them so hard, they're going to die anyway. They're like, oh, that guy's dead. That guy's dead.
Yeah.
He's going to die. Internal bleeding's happening to that guy. There's a sniper in one scene where she jumps up and just destroys the church, hitting the sniper. I'm like, oh, he's extremely dead. Like, why are they purposely acting like she's not killing anyone? Really weird.
It's gonna be 2 years. It's gonna be 2 years of physical therapy before you can walk again.
Yeah, like out of the trinity of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, the one who has no problem with killing people is Wonder Woman. So it's really weird. They're like, no, she's not killing people. No, she was killing people. It's a very odd choice to do that.
That's the Marvel conundrum where they have created an entire genre of movie. Basically, they've created a formula, and part of that formula is these movies are going to be ultra violent, but they're going to have no consequences to the violence, like literally none. You know, people will be punched, kicked, lasered, blown up. Doesn't matter. No one will die ever. And you never see blood, you don't see gore, you don't see things snapping, breaking, you don't hear it. You know, it's just boom, oof, boom, you know, and these are horrible sound effects. I don't know why I'm supposed to do that. But you see someone get punched, they get knocked across the room, the wall behind them breaks, but their spine is fine.
Yeah.
You know, they get stabbed, and nothing matters in those movies. And the entire superhero genre has been infected by that, where they want to be these kids movies essentially, but they don't want to be honest about the level of violence that these films have. It's actually, I don't know, it's upsetting to me, and I'm not somebody who loves gore or anything like that. I don't want these like torturous body horror type things where you've got stuff flying everywhere. I don't, The
Yeah.
Boys is one thing, but I don't really need that from everything. I just think it's really disingenuous for this entire genre to exist where so many violent things happen, and the movie has to actually pretend like it's not happening in order to sell it to children. Like, for example, you had Black Panther, right?
Yeah.
Black Panther is a really violent movie, but they were showing it in schools at one point because the character was like basically like a symbol. I
Mhm.
understand that part of it, but like when you're like bussing in third grade kids to go see an extremely violent movie where bad things are happening to different characters, women aren't necessarily being treated the way women should be treated, and other things, there's like a terrorist plot. It's just a lot to suspend my disbelief, that the kids should be seeing this. Like, I don't. That's a leap that I would not take.
Mhm.
And yes, anyway, that's my long-winded rant, but it's frustrating to me that you have this whole thing where it's like, all right, this guy's gonna get punched 300 feet, he's gonna hit a wall, but he's fine. He gets up. He's fine. Doesn't matter. Any like normal people, they're not gonna die.
I think
Uh,
it's all about. I think it's really the writing and directing, how much care they take to that. Because I do think, so like, there's different degrees, but like, yeah, in Black Panther, people are straight up getting killed in that one. Like, he's killing people in that. Uh, it's easier in a war setting. So like Captain America, he's killing people, but that's a soldier thing going on, so it's like acceptable to see that.
right.
Thinking more like, you got Zack Snyder, he goes a little bit more in the other direction where there's things are violently getting damaged, and but
Yeah.
then he's just, to skip that, he just has, well, he's just Batman's killing people. He's just skipping that by having them kill people. I'm really trying to think of an example right now in the more modern time. Like, Wonder Woman was one example where she's just doing violence. You cannot pretend they're not dying to her, but they're acting like they're not. Like, I can't think. Guardian Galaxy is an example because they are straight up killing people in that one.
Yeah.
Like, Rocket Raccoon just murdering a ton of people in that one. Hondo is killing people. So I'm trying to think of what movie are they screwing that. Probably the Avengers movies are where they're messing that up. Probably there's probably a lot of violence in there that people should not be walking from.
Well, they're also killing in the Avengers. They kill either robots or
That's true.
faceless, nameless aliens.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're killing the Chitani in the first one, and
The
then
what?
they're called the Chitani in the first movie.
Okay,
Those
I didn't
aliens.
know that.
Then the second one, yeah, they're just killing robots, and that's partially the problem with the big budget movies, as you're saying. Like, there's all this chaos and destruction, everything. They don't really
You
talk
don't
about the
care.
collateral damage. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was kind of the problem with Civil War, where they bring up like, yeah, all that rebel you were blowing things up, and some rebel killed my son. It's like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Like, there's two sides. That one is they're literally saving the world, and two is there's rubble everywhere during their destruction. And there's two ways to say it. One is the belief that they're just mindlessly blowing things up, and they don't care about the collateral damage. The other one is, how can they possibly consider every option of collateral damage when you're trying to save the world?
Right.
Rebels just killing random people. That's like the comment I make in just any movie where there's like a big explosion over a city. I'm like, oh, that's a bunch of random people dead from shrapnel. Like, it's an unfortunate thing. Yeah, there's a lot of just hand waving. Like, just don't think about all the people who were horribly killed in these explosions.
Yeah. I just think it's more of my objection to that is not even the fact that it's dishonest. I think my biggest objection to it is just aesthetically. I find it very unsatisfying to see these physical moves happening and physical violence being done to these characters or random people, even not even just like the main characters. Because I understand you're not going to have every single time there's a fight, you're not going to have Captain America, not, in a hospital or something or whatever. I understand they're superheroes or whatever, even if they should be taking more damage. I understand they're not going to, but just like the random characters that they hit, I find it aesthetically annoying that you have superheroes like punching, kicking, stabbing, whatever, shooting these people, and the effect that you get on the other end, like the visual feedback is pathetic in comparison to the damage that they should be doing.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of an example in the other direction, though. I'm trying to think of an example in the other direction where a superhero actually takes the care to not murder anyone. Like in movies. And I can't think too much. Like Spider-Man, he does a lot of just webbing people up. He's not really punching people.
Yeah.
Like, I think...
But I would say that's a good example.
Yeah, I think he might be the best example of not hitting people too hard. You can bring up Miles Morales, he is just wrecking people. But I'm just thinking, like, random citizens, yeah, they usually just get webbed up if he can help it. Or he's, like, dodging. Yeah, it's a lot more dodging, throwing, and webbing, which I feel like, yeah, if you're a kid who doesn't want to kill people, that's really the approach to take.
I thought you were going to say, what's the other direction where the physical violence is really satisfying when it's dished out. But I was going to give the example of Zack Snyder, The Watchmen. I thought that was the way they did that was very satisfying because you're actually seeing the damage that these people would be doing to each other and the other random people.
For me, for that, my only problem with that was when Owlman was doing it. Because I didn't feel like Owlman was the kind of guy who would break bones through flesh. Like, I understood Rorschach doing that. But I felt like Owlman was the softer side of that duo.
Okay.
So he would try to disable, he wouldn't try to just break a dude's arm through his skin. Like, because I remember he punches a guy and the bone just breaks. He compound fractures a bone through his arm. Like, oh, Jesus. All right.
Yeah.
I get that after, that wasn't in the movie, I don't think. No, it was in the movie. When his mentor gets killed. I get when he rage beats the crap out of people. But pre that, he's just getting back into it. And even then, I don't think he's got the strength to break compound fracture people. But I felt like that was too far for his character. I didn't feel like he was the character that breaks bones. I felt like Rorschach was.
Having watched the movie, all I know is I don't know anything about the Watchmen in general. I just know what I know from the movie. And I think, that's probably true about him being a little out of character because he's a softer guy. Maybe he softens up as time goes on more so. I don't know. But this is all what I'm basing off the movie. Yeah,
like I think the violence should be like, I do believe that comic book movies have softened violence despite there being so much of it, and that
there's so much of it,
and it's really desensitized people's understanding of violence. It really has. Like, there's a big difference between how real combat works compared to like how movie combat works. And some reality is good.
It doesn't have to be completely real. Like, you can have a translated version of violence. I find it upsetting how routine everything is. There's so much violence, and it's so easy and effortless, and the impacts aren't there. Like, someone saying the Winter Soldier has satisfying combat. I agree. It was those fights were really well choreographed and everything. But I don't remember either. I feel like there was pretty good impacts, like when people would get punched or whatnot. But just in general, I'm talking about there should be consequences to being in these fights constantly. You know, you should see somebody really beat up. By the way, is Night Owl, was he like a weaker character? Was he the weakest one out of what's the ranking of these characters?
In theory, let's see here. I think no one's powered up besides Dr. Manhattan. That's it. Like, everyone's just regular human. So Silk Spectre is just a really strong human.
Really?
Night Owl is a really strong human. Rorschach is an insane human. Like, Rorschach and Night Owl are the two sides of Batman, basically. Like, they're the darkest part of him and the lighter part of him.
Right.
Then you've got Dr. Manhattan, who is the super being, who's the god character. He's supposed to be basically...
What about Ozzy?
Ozymandias is a human he's supposed to be basically Captain America. Like, he's not, without science, just, he's trained himself to be the strongest human possible. That's who Ozymandias is.
Really? So his super speed?
So his super speed is just as fast as a human can go. Like, all the things he does is, he's just supposed to be a human who's trained himself to peak performance. That's what Ozzy is. So no one's powered up besides Dr. Manhattan. Like no one's got magic or anything special. Like Night Owl's
No
specialty
serum.
is the gadgets. That's his specialty, is having gadgets.
Right. But they all
Um,
seem, everyone seems more capable than the average person, and
yeah,
even more capable than like the average bad guy. Like when they show them just wailing on people in the streets.
yeah. Like when they're destroying the prisoners and things like that. They're
Yeah.
just supposed to be just really well trained humans. That's really what it
Okay.
is.
I didn't know that. I thought they were actually superheroes to some degree, even
No,
if they were like
it's
lesser
it's
heroes.
it's just all masks vigilantes. That's the whole idea. And yeah, it's just masked vigilantes. That's it.
Okay.
John Wick. John Wick is not a comic book movie, but it's a pretty good. I consider John Wick movies like video game movies for video games that don't exist. They really feel like video game movies to me.
Yeah. Maybe that's why I don't like them.
Like they're silly, but they're fun to watch at the same time because Keanu Reeves put in the training for it, so he does some pretty good just combat with that movie.
I want to take that back though. I had fun with, I don't know which one Halle Berry's in. I had fun with
That's
that one.
I think that's the third one. So
Yeah,
at that
okay. I
point,
like that one.
they're like, we know what we are. We know we're kind of a cartoony kind of universe, and
Yeah.
so with her gun dogs, and it's it's kind of got power creep. I think the movie with the worst power creep, the most insane power creep, is Fast and the Furious. That has got some amazing power creep.
Truly. They went from just, drag racing on the streets to superhero villains, and like that's fascinating. Honestly, if you wanted to study pop culture, there's probably no better franchise to understand the shift in genres over time, like what's popular, and understand how the mechanics of movies changed and everything, and what worked and what didn't in terms of big budget stuff, because you went from this like smaller underground racing scene, and then it ends up going overseas, and you get drifting and stuff. You get a sequel, things get a little bit larger, and then it's like heist movies, and then you get like big action stuff with The Rock and versus Vin Diesel. It becomes that kind of thing, and then it turns literally into superheroes.
Yep.
Because that's what's popular. It's really incredible transformation. It's just like it's superheroes that happen to use cars now, like,
and they're just random people. Like
right.
Because you go from what is it? In the first movie, the end of the movie, they have that big, like, they're both driving their cars at the end. Vin Diesel's got that muscle car, and he flips the car, and he's, like, hurt, like his arm's broken or something. And then in, like, the fifth or the sixth movie, he does a chicken run, head-on crashes into the other guy, who's Jason Statham, and neither of them take damage. When that would have killed movie one Vin Diesel. Like, that would have killed it.
I know, he was mortal at one point. They got hurt and stuff. That happened with the Die Hards too. Die Hard, John McClane used to get hurt, and then whatever, I forget which one it was, 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think 4. Like, that's my problem with the John McClane movies is he goes from a human to a superhuman. And when that switched over in the 4th movie, I'm like, I don't care about John McClane anymore.
It was the 4th one, yeah. He lost his vulnerability.
Because he's fighting, I can't remember his name all of a sudden, the guy from Justified. He's fighting... Oh, James Oliphant. James Oliphant's the final boss of that whole thing. And he's fighting him. And... yeah, he's just a superhero at that point. And it's like, well, this is not as great. And as far as I know, it's all push from Bruce Willis to just make him a superhuman character, which is very unfortunate. Like, he's just better as a human character, a guy who gets hurt. Because in the first movie, he's going through so much pain and suffering. You're really feeling for him as he's dealing with all these situations. And now he drove a car into a helicopter.
There's a point where you just can't really go higher than where it already is. You've already taken it to the most extreme location.
I feel like that's a mistake that movies do, is where the sequel has to power creep, where it has to be bigger.
Yeah.
I think it's possible to be just the same line, or even maybe even smaller, but if you know how to pull it off, you're good. Because if you just keep going bigger and bigger and bigger, there's a point where it's unattainable. It's just not possible anymore to go any further. Like, the Fast and Furious movies have gotten real stale for me. Like, they've just become superhero movies. I'm like, well, I have comic book movies for that. I don't know. Though I did watch Cobb and Hobbs, and that was a fun popcorn movie for sure.
I haven't seen it.
Or Hobbs and Shaw, whatever it's called. Hobbs and Shaw. That is a popcorn
movie. Did you
movie.
think Calvin and Hobbs?
yes. Calvin and Hobbs.
Starring Vin Diesel.
So, like, The Rock and Jason Statham are just macho men in that, and they have some funny lines. It's just a good popcorn movie. That's really what it is. If you want to turn your brain off, this is a good movie for that. If you want to think, that's not the movie for it. It's not at all. This is a time to not think. Because that movie is silly, and the Powercreep is even more ridiculous than the Fast and Furious movies already. And it's just good popcorn fun. And what's his name? Ryan Reynolds is in it, and he's hilarious in it.
Oh, okay, I didn't know.
Ryan Reynolds is not. He's in it for maybe like a tenth of the movie, maybe a fifth, and he's really great in those scenes because it's Ryan Reynolds. He has the charisma for it.
Yeah. I really miss the early Fast and Furious stuff. Too Fast, Too Furious is such a good movie. I love it. There's so many funny lines in it, and it just has so much charisma as a movie. You were talking about Ryan Reynolds having charisma, but that movie has an identity, and it has a swagger, and it has there's just something warm and genuine and fun about it that it completely gets lost later on because it turns into a machine, and that really feels just like, oh wow, this is a summer movie. It's a little stupid, there's a lot of implausible stuff going on, but it's fun. It knows what it is, and these characters, the chemistry between Tyrese and Paul Walker, that movie is amazing.
Oh yeah, really good chemistry. So it's really unfortunate. Life imitated art, or one way or the other, and he just crashed the hell out of his car.
Yeah.
Really curious what would have happened to that series, to those movies if that happened, because I think it was Vin Diesel was going to retire from those movies, and he was going to just become the mainstay. And he's not a Superman character like Vin Diesel's character, so it would have been a very different trajectory for sure.
Wait, so it was going to end up being that it was just Paul Walker?
Yeah, Vin Diesel was going to retire, and then Paul Walker ends up dying, so then becomes Vin Diesel's movies again.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you heard about this, but they had contracts. Vin Diesel and The Rock had in their contracts that they couldn't be punched more than the other guy. So they had to each get an equal amount of blows on each other.
Yeah.
So that they couldn't like get out punched by anybody. Yeah, basically they had to be the tough guy.
It's an unfortunate what's the word here? Egotism between the two of them?
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff going on between them.
Like, random fact to bring up is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. The rule was set in that I forget who made it happen, but was Mickey and Bugs Bunny. They had to have equal time in the movie. So if you used Mickey for some things, you had to use Bugs for some things later on. So to fix that, they just we'll just have them on the screen at the same time, and they'll just do the stuff together. That's why you see them together in any scene they're in. They're both on screen. It's like that just solves the problem. But it's very unfortunate. If you watch just the scenes of Fast and the Furious, they're not even looking at each other when they're talking to each other. Like, they don't have any eye contact. And it's because they have different mindsets on how to do things, and there's also egos there. Because, like, The Rock's, he's the busiest man in the world. He's always doing something. It's amazing how much crap The Rock does, how many TV shows he's doing, how much he's producing. He's doing a bunch of crap all the time. It's ridiculous. And then Vin Diesel likes to wake up at noon and then work, apparently. So he's like, come on, we have all this time of the day we could do work and get this done. But at the same time, I think you can give some leeway to Vin Diesel because he's working on a project with his best friend died and everything. It's like, not an easy thing to do.
Were they really best friends?
Everyone loved Paul Walker, is my understanding, because he was just that really nice guy.
Yeah, I know, but
But
were they? I didn't realize that they were friends.
they were really well connected, is my understanding. Like they called and talked and all
Okay.
that stuff.
Okay.
So he lost someone important to him, which is very unfortunate.
Yeah.
That would take a toll, like to just keep making these movies with someone that you were teamed up with for most of it.
Oh yeah. No, I imagine. I mean, imagine if you work on something that long, you either have to hate the person or really like them after a long time like that. So yeah, that's your thoughts on Wonder Woman.
We're getting there.
All right.
We're
So
getting there.
you watched both the first one, which was just Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Was there anything else? Was there anything after like Wonder Woman, the Winter Soldier? What was the full title?
I think it was. I don't think she had a title. I think it was just Wonder Woman. There wasn't like the first Justice Leaguer, like Captain America, the first Avenger. It was just Wonder Woman. I think it was just what it was. Or the funny thing is, if you went by years, you'd be like Wonder Woman 2017. It's like, what was the sequel? Wonder Woman 1984. What? What?
1984 parentheses 2020.
Yeah.
So watching the first one back, because you had made the point that you thought it was better than it was. Like when you first seen it, you thought it was really good, and then the second time you saw it, you're like, yeah, it's all right.
Yeah. So I think what happens is it's the whole thing of like, this is going to be not the best example, but you just have someone who's like a 7 and their friends are 5s, so they look like an 8. So like you have, so Wonder Woman was the 7 surrounded by what? Batman versus Superman.
That's a 0.
And like, the newer Superman movie. So she's surrounded by these other DC movies that are not that great. So she looks like a 7, but she becomes an 8 because these other movies weren't that great.
Yep.
By the way, it's amazing how there are people who are like Batman vs Superman was the best DC movie ever, and then they turn around and act like the Snyder Cut's going to save the DCEU. So which one is it? Like, were these terrible and need to be saved, or were they just great and what the hell? But Wonder Woman looked better because the other DC movies just were not as good. And like between DC and Marvel, honestly, closer to my heart is DC. But you have to be real about the DC movie, the DC and Marvel movies. And the reality is the Marvel movies are kicking DC movies' ass. That's the reality of it. And because I get called like a Marvel fanboy, I'm like, no, I'm a DC fanboy. I just can be real about it. They're not as good as the Marvel movies. And an unfortunate thing about the Wonder Woman movie is watching it a second time. Like the first time I was able to just get in it, I'm like, oh, this is entertaining and everything, and I like these moments. And honestly, Chris Pine owns that movie.
Yeah.
Chris Pine has an amazing charisma about his acting, and he's acting the heck out of his scenes. Like he just, you believe his emotions in his scenes. That's what's important. Like you believe that he is trying his best in these situations. You believe that he's like, he knows he's gonna die at the end of this movie. Like he's like, all right, yeah, I gotta pull the trigger and die now. And like you can, it just the look of like, okay, trying to be okay with that fact and trying to like just do the steps of just accepting his own fate was very good, and I appreciated his acting in that movie. Gal Gadot does all right. The thing about watching the first movie again is it reminded me about the characterization they're giving Diana. Like she's a fish out of water. She's very naive about the world because she's never been there. And she has a more, warrior mindset of things where, because there's a point when she's berating a general. Because like, you're sending all your men to die, but you're not willing to fight next to them and things like that. And it does remind me about the annoyance of war. Like war is caused by old men who expect young men to die for them. That's really what war is. And it is an annoying thing where the generals are not on the front lines. Only these young men who were either pressed into action or they believed in a greater thing. And so her annoyance of them, like, yeah, she should be annoyed with them. It all fits and everything. But the characterization of her mother, Hippolyta, is she doesn't want her daughter to become a warrior. From like childhood to adulthood, like childhood to teenager, they do this whole characterization of the mom does not want her daughter to become a warrior. She doesn't want her to train. She doesn't want to do anything. She's just going to be she's going to be like a scholar. She's like Chi-Chi from Dragon Ball. She wants her kid to be a scholar. She wants Gohan to be a scholar. And in the second movie, what's the first scene we see? The first thing we see is like this Olympics thing, which looks really cool, but Diana's in it as a child. And Hippolyta is all about this. She's like, you can do it. I believe in you. And is like, wait, no, the mom doesn't want her daughter to do any of this. Did you forget your own movie? Patty Jenkins, did you forget your own movie? Because you wrote this one. You directed the first one, but you wrote this one. You forget your characterization of the first movie? I don't understand. And Wonder Woman 1984 suffers from a lot of forgetting that all the other movies exist.
Yeah.
But also just forgetting the first movie existed. And there's some good action scenes in the first movie, and Chris Pine really owns that movie. And I think you forgive Gal Gadot's acting because it's like, sure, this is her second time as Wonder Woman, but you know, she's like, what other movies have we seen her in, and what other action movies have we seen her in? And she does all right. And then,
so are you forgiving her in the first one or the second one?
So in the first movie, I was very forgiving the first time I watched it. Second time I watched him, like, she's not matching Chris Pine at all. Like, she's not matching him at all. He's got this. He's owning this movie, and she's not keeping up. She was alright. Yeah. So there's a lot of just everything else in DCEU is not that great. So this is the best one here. So it became an 8. Watching it again, it's a 7. It's just a 7 because we've got more movies now. And there.
I just realized what her acting reminds me of. You know when you like just wake up from a nap and someone starts talking to you and you're not quite sure what they're saying? That's what she acts like. Like, and there's so many scenes where someone is telling her something and it's like not registering until like another half second or second. Like she's just behind.
I see.
And she kind of has a little blank like look to her.
Yeah. And I think it worked for the first movie because she's supposed to be naive and everything. The second movie, it does not work for her.
I didn't have a problem. There were people that had a real big issue with how her acting was in Batman versus Superman. I didn't really think her acting was that bad, and I thought she was good in Wonder Woman 1. I haven't seen it recently, but again, I'm going off of my thoughts from last time. And I've watched clips since then and to brush up for this, but I didn't actually commit to watching the whole thing because I didn't feel like it. But I thought she actually was okay. I thought she was good in the first one. Mm-hmm. Batman vs Superman was definitely weaker. I didn't really like her that much in it, but I didn't think it was terrible. Like people were saying this is the worst acting ever, and I was like,
no,
it's okay. In 1984, I thought she was okay. Like she's never gonna, make me go, wow, that was terrific.
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
But she's just kind of there, and and as Wonder Woman, I think she does a good job. She embodies a lot of the qualities that you would need for Wonder Woman. Like she carries the responsibility of being Wonder Woman, like on screen.
Yeah, I think the only thing missing is the confidence of Wonder Woman. She doesn't really show the confidence of Wonder Woman, I think, which is also a weird thing about the movies.
Yes and no.
When we get to the Wish, that's where it's weird. That was a weird thing about the way they wanted to characterize her versus the way she was being characterized. They kept when she's training, they're like, you have too much doubt, and she's not showing any doubt. She's showing overconfidence, I think she is confident. In the first movie, they're like, you're showing too much doubt in yourself, but she's doing a lot of overconfident moves. She's not doing doubtful moves. So it was weird not going two different directions there. And then you've got the second movie where I think she's fine as Wonder Woman. And she's doing things. Trying to remember. The other problem was that movie was very forgettable. Wow. Trying to remember the action sequences, like the mall fight, like the mall action sequence. Like, she's
Yeah.
kind of having fun in that one. So yeah, she does. She is showing like she's being Wonder Woman. The problem with that whole thing is, like they're just having fun with it, which is good. But the way that fight ends is weird in that two things. One is she just dumps these guys on a cop car, showing like, oh, I don't have any respect for the police. What the hell is that about?
I did think that too. I was like, wow, nice property damage.
Yeah, it was like, dick move there. What's that about? You
Yeah.
don't like the cops? Because she could have just
Well,
had them
hey,
in front of the
you never
cop
know.
car. Like it's
Could
like
be ahead of her time.
and the other one, she goes like, keep it a secret to the one little girl there when she's in front of a bajillion people at the mall. Like if she saved a little
Yeah.
girl at the park or something, I get it, or in like a store and she was the only one in the store. But
Yeah.
everyone at this mall saw her, which that whole thing going on, the whole movie where she's just running around being a superhero. I'm like, how did Batman have a hard time finding anything about Wonder Woman? Because in Batman vs
She's
Superman,
just doing whatever. Broad daylight, cameras, doesn't matter.
it's really silly. Because in Batman vs Superman, the only thing he could find about Wonder Woman was the picture from World War One. That's all he could find, which means he's not the greatest detective in the world. That's what it's telling me.
That's true.
It was really...
He just did a Google search. That was his problem.
Yeah, that's what happened there. Like I like it that Wonder Woman's running around doing a bunch of hero stuff. The only problem is because it's a prequel, later stuff's like, what do you mean Wonder Woman did all this stuff? Man, I'm really bad at investigating. But I do like that she's running around being a hero. Like that's never a bad thing. Yeah, that whole mall thing. There were 5 or 6 writers on this movie.
Were they really?
And
I'm just looking at that.
I think the movie suffers from too many cooks. I think it was too many ideas and they didn't cut enough ideas. And that's probably why it's so ridiculous and such a mess.
All right, I gotta put everything out there.
Okay.
So I really liked the first Wonder Woman.
Mm.
I really liked it. However, I mean, there's problems with it. I think the first 2/3 of that movie I really, really liked.
Yeah, for sure.
It was, I think Wonder Woman came out the same year as Black Panther, and so that was the two big kind of like watermarks. You had the Marvel movie that was big, and you had the DC movie that was big, and it was the first time where I felt like, wow, DC has actually put something out that can compete, that is like reasonably competent compared to the rest of the stuff that they made. So I really like that movie. But the problem with that first one is they did the stupid thing where we got to have a big CGI battle. You can't understand anything. I don't know why that DC does that more, where they have a disgustingly ugly CG battle where it's visually just a spaghetti mess.
They're just not learning their lesson.
Yeah, terrible. They've done that multiple times. I mean, Black Panther had the exact same problem, which was very weird to me. Black Panther had a more nuanced or intelligent script with like interesting themes. Wonder Woman, I don't think the themes really interested me that much, but I just thought as a superhero movie, I thought it was really quite good. Okay, so 1984 though. I liked it. I don't know why I liked it. I keep saying this, and I think I am serious. I don't know if it was the mood I was in or something, but it was terrible. That's the problem. It was terrible. I'm saying I liked it, but I'm saying in the same exact breath that I liked it, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
It was a mess. I think just thinking about it right now, you had a bunch of different segments just jammed together. You've got like the big opening set piece at a mall. You've got a bunch of different secondary plots going on with like a side villain, the villain's relationship with his kid. There's a lot of different things happening, and all of it feels like it was just inserted in next to each other. It was like, all right, let's get this piece, and then we get this piece. And whereas the first movie, I actually felt like it was one continuous work. 1984 does not feel like, I don't know if it's just me, but it feels truly like they were just putting things in grabbing a piece and just jamming it in the next spot, grabbing a piece, jamming it in the next spot. They're like, I mean, you're right. There's way too many ideas. It's too long. There's too many ideas. They should have cut some of this stuff out. And frankly, some of the writing was embarrassing. Like embarrassing. And I think that's where people will probably push back the most against this movie. Like we have to talk about the scene in which Diana, a Wonder Woman, who is the savior and is supposed to be this icon, you know, this feminist hero. It's representation and all that stuff. Like I'm saying this not because I don't think any of that's I don't think that sort of thing is important. I'm saying that sarcastically because I don't think it applies to Wonder Woman necessarily. I mean, if it does, it's really cynically placed on, you know. I think people are taking advantage of that at big studios and whatnot. Anyway, different topic, different day. Where was I going with this? What was I just Wonder Woman? Do we have to talk about the scene in which Wonder Woman, who is a icon, you know, feminist, she's like the good character, she does everything to save people, all that kind of stuff. That was the one thing I loved about the first Wonder Woman. She was a hero and she liked it. She wasn't like Superman, who was this mopey jerk whose dad was like, let those kids drown, I don't care about them, you need to really protect yourself. Terrible. Wonder Woman cared about saving people. She loved to do it. She had a joy. She would do, you know, she would, at every turn, she would just save anybody because that's what she does, because she's a hero and heroes save people. So compare and contrast that with Wonder Woman 1984, in which Diana is in a chase with a bunch of Humvees. There's like 20 Humvees going down this road in Egypt, and you've got kids playing soccer or football, whatever you want to call it, in the street. That in the road as these Humvees are barreling towards these kids, right?
Yeah.
You got these kids that are in the way. Some reason they're being idiots and don't realize that the Humvees are really about to hit them. They're all going. The Humvees are barreling towards them.
Yeah.
And Diana sees this and is like, "Oh no, I need to save them." Okay. Keep in mind, at this point, she is losing her powers. She has no idea whether her powers are going to work or not because she is rapidly losing them due to a part of the plot, a plot device.
Yeah.
So she sees the kids in the road, thinks, "Oh, I'm a superhero. I need to save them." So what does she do? She looks to Steve, her boyfriend, whatever, romantic character, and says, "Launch the missile or rocket or whatever it was." So Steve literally launches a rocket, missile, whatever it was, towards children. This is real. So kids are playing in the street. You got cars running towards them. She looks at Steve. She's like, "Steve, do it. Launch the missile." So she has Steve or whatever launch a missile, rocket, whatever it was, towards children, literally at the children, in their direction, and then lassos onto the rocket to bring herself closer to them, which she then throws the rocket away. She just uses it to get the speed, so she does successfully not kill them with a rocket, which would have been so horrible, obviously.
Yeah.
But just the idea to even do that, especially when the context is Egypt, and you have this American doing it. Steve is American, and you've got the idea of just Hollywood inserting this, where it's like, yeah, we're just gonna launch a rocket at kids, like that. Just in general, that visual, in that general area of the world, is troubling. To even like throw that out there is wow.
Yeah.
And then to just launch the rocket at the kids, lassos it. Okay, so she throws it away. That's fine. She saves them. Woo. But she actually does lose her powers in that moment. So not only was that a horrible idea because she lost her powers, but the actual consequences of that, she doesn't really save them in a way. She kind of just falls on top of them. And speaking of consequences, those kids should have broken something. She should have seriously hurt them, but she just kind of looks at them as like, "Yeah, you're fine." Yeah, gives them a thumbs up. And then there's the whole idea of the added layer to it where Gal Gadot, her background,
Right.
Israel, you've got that whole piece to it, and
Mhm.
just what is going on there. This is like an all PR stunt, kind of like in the middle of a movie. I don't even need to get into that. Just as a character, as decision making that a hero would make, that makes zero sense, and that was laughable and just terrible. Like, who thought launching a missile at kids, you lasso it to get a speed boost, you throw the rocket away, it blows up, and then you just fall on children, literally falling, I don't know, 50, 60 feet, and just
Yeah.
landing on kids to save them from Humvees because they couldn't get out of the road because they were going to get run over. I don't know. I don't know if you laughed at that or thought that was as absurd. I wish I could find the clip. It's not around. I've tried finding it, but I think they're taking it down when it gets uploaded to like Twitter and stuff. Because I would love to watch that again.
See here. Let's see if I'm making sure I don't accidentally. I can just bring up the stream of it.
Oh,
While you're talking, I can bring up and look at the stream. Obviously, I'm gonna mute this thing because I don't want this to get demonetized. But I swear he shoots it at the sky. But if he's shooting at the kids, holy shit! I still thought it was ridiculous.
Okay,
In the first place, it's ridiculous anyway. Like she's gonna get speed from a rocket,
yes,
from like a bazooka thing. Like, are you kidding me? That's what you do.
It wasn't literally fired at the children, but I'm just saying it was in the direction that you could see a scenario where it comes back to Earth and kills them. That's all. I don't know how the mechanics of that specific missile rocket.
Shoots it up into the air. Okay, so going back a little bit before it. She's like, "Oh no, there's children running into the street playing freaking football. What are you doing? What are you doing, children? You are Darwin award winning right now." And then
that's realistic though. Children do that.
Yeah, that's true. My sister ran in front of a car once, almost got run over. So he shoots one into the air. She grabs it with a lasso. So apparently those are powerful enough to pull people. She throws it away. It is going towards the children, though.
Yes.
It is going towards the children. Like, it might fly over them, but it's still in their general direction.
It's way too close for comfort. That's all I'm saying. You don't launch rockets at children.
And then she flies over. She grabs the kids. They're in the air, and then she loses her grip, and then they fall. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Right. I've had that sequence a little mixed up, but yeah, she lands on them.
Let's see. Watching. It's mostly her taking the hit on the ground, but the kids do take a little bit. Yeah.
I mean, they roll. What I remember is them rolling, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't she roll on top of them at one point?
She grabs them. She rolls. They fall on top of her, and then she's on top of them a little bit. So they still should take some damage from that physics. Yeah. It's a silly scene. It really is. And this thing I was thinking about is like she is Israel, like she was in the Israeli military because I think everyone has to be in there for a little bit. It's kind of like Korea, where everyone has to serve. Yeah. And that is something I didn't even think about. I was like, yeah, having her be the superhero symbol and then doing that in the Middle East, very interesting to do that. Or in Egypt, actually. I mean, I think it's in Egypt. Right. Well, that's still
it was at the time, yeah.
That area of consideration.
Just like the kids, it's too close for comfort. You shouldn't be launching rockets.
Yes. That is a silly idea. It's like, she wouldn't be like Darwin's choosing right now, but I know she's got to do something, but wow. That's an interesting choice to make. Shoot a rocket at kids. Yeah, it is going towards those children. Like, it might miss. But do you really want to make that gamble at the end of the day?
I mean, that's just one of many writing decisions that I did not understand at all.
Yeah. There's a lot of writings. Let me think going down the line of it.
I mean, you said you pointed out the one of like just the stupid hush to the kid kind of thing.
It was like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. What? There's sometimes movies where they're like, oh, this will be great. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense. What are you doing? I think you're literally, like the forest for the trees, I think you literally have a tree in front of you and you can't see anything else sometimes when you're with these movies. Where they just can't see how that's a really dumb thing. I'm going to bring up another movie real quick. Real Steel. Don't know if anyone watched that movie. It's the one with robots boxing, and I enjoy it. But at the end of the movie, Hugh Jackman wants to tell his son he loves him, and the son says, "Don't worry, I'll keep your secret." That doesn't fit at all. right there, because it's a callback to the kid saying it to a robot earlier, saying, "I'll keep your secret, robot." And he says it to his dad, who wants to tell him he loves him. He's like, "Just let your dad say he loves you." What the hell? It's supposed to be this
Wait,
weird
he said, "I'll
moment.
keep your secret about what?"
Because his dad wants to say "I love you, son" or something like that, and he says, "Don't worry, Dad, you don't have to say the actual words. I'll keep your secret." Like, that doesn't work. That's a weird callback to make, and just Hollywood has these weird callbacks in movies like that.
Right.
Or they think it'll be really good. But like, just the same idea here is like she goes, keep it a secret, kid, to the little girl, and it's like, what are you talking about? She's in the mall. Her tiaring 3 security cameras isn't enough, by the way. Let's see, 1984. I think VHS tapes exist around that time, so there might be tapes of her in the mall at that moment. Like, there's stuff Bruce Wayne should have found. There's stuff Bruce Wayne should have found, basically.
At the very least, way too many people saw her.
Yeah.
Someone would have had a news report about her.
Mm-hmm. And just the big elephant in the room is just like, remember all that crazy stuff that happened in 1984 that we don't talk about anymore? Remember when there was this dude had cows and like a giant wall showed up in Egypt and there were nukes in the air? Remember when that happened? No one remembers that? Okay.
Yeah,
like,
that's
the movie establishes that people still have memory of the wishes. They didn't get mind wiped. That incident happened. I'm like, did Bruce Wayne wish for his parents back? And did 2 random strangers show up at his house? Is that what happened? I want to get on that really quick. It's an interesting thought, but okay, the whole wishing thing.
Yeah.
The problem with wishes is you can do whatever you want and they still did it bad. Because they didn't even follow their own rules. In
what sense?
Part of it was they wanted to do specific jokes. Like, this guy's like, I wanted to farm, but I didn't think I'd have cows just right here, or things like that. But the whole idea was, it's a really smart idea, I thought, where the guy's like, I want to become the monkey's paw. So, because the monkey's paw is, you wish for something, you get that, but something bad also happens. But usually it's supposed to be like kind of ironic what happens with these monkey paw wishes. Like, that's supposed to be the hook of the monkey's paw. It's, you wish for a thing, but it's kind of BS what you got.
Right, it like takes away the thing that you actually want or something like that, or it limits your enjoyment of the thing that you actually wish for.
So, like, a bad example would be, like, say, I'm doing this. So, Viagra is a monkey's paw in that it lets an old man get up again, but the monkey's paw is sometimes he just has it for 4 hours and he's just like, what the hell am I going to do with this thing? Like, that's what a monkey's paw is supposed to be. It's supposed to be that. There's supposed to be consequences to your wish that are related to your wish. So, Steve Trevor, the monkey's paw should have been what it was, and that is, she got her man back, but he's in another guy. And there's ethical questions there, and that's very interesting, but she also loses her powers. Yeah,
they did not explore that. They explore that
a little bit. Like, Steve Trevor is the only one who actually cares. He's always like, I'm in another guy. He's like, this can't last forever. And he knows it because he's in someone else. He knows this isn't his body, so they can't do this forever. And he slowly hints at that at different points in the movie. He's like, yeah, I know this can't be me forever. The problem with that is...
he realizes it's wrong. He's the first one to realize it's wrong.
And the problem with that is she got 2 consequences for her wish. She got him in another man's body, and she got... her power is limited, which is odd. Like, it should be only like one of these things happens. Because the problem with the wishes is the wishes just create things. The wishes just create nukes. The wishes just create cows. The wishes just create things. Why didn't the wish just create a Steve Trevor? And I think that was just 2 different ideas happened there. I think one idea was the ethical question of Steve Trevor in another man's body, and another one was, what if it limits her powers? And this is a problem of superhero movies in that not all of them have done this, but it is a trend that has happened in that in the second movie, the hero loses their powers, so we can have a really cool they get their powers back moment later on. Spider-Man 2 does this. Batman 2 does this. I can think of... what's another sequel that did... oh, Superman 2 did this. In the original Superman 2, Superman gives up his powers for Lois Lane. He's just a regular guy, and he gets beat up at one point. And then later on in the movie, he gets his powers back and wrecks that dude, and everyone loves that moment. And so we get the same with Peter Parker. He loses his powers because he doesn't have confidence anymore, and then he gets his confidence back, and he fights Doc Ock. That's the best version of it. Yeah.
I think.
That is the best version where he's losing his powers because he's just doubting who he is. It's also weird, but it's also okay. And then Batman he wants to retire, so he's building up Harvey Dent. He's trying to get Harvey Dent to become the White Knight of Gotham. That's the entire point of that movie is he's trying to create the hero that Gotham deserves. And so he's just trying to retire, and then Joker blows everything to hell. And he becomes the hero that Gotham needs. And so Wonder Woman is another example of that same shtick. And I swear to God, if Aquaman 2 is Aquaman losing his powers, I'm going to be annoyed. But they do the same thing here, because there's that cool moment when she does get her powers back. It's really cool seeing her running and being powerful again. But it wasn't good getting there.
Yeah.
Because the problem was it got muddled by Barbara's wish. Because Barbara's wish is, I want to be like Wonder Woman. So when Wonder Woman's losing her powers, I thought the monkey's paw was going like, oh, it's just stealing her powers and giving them to Barbara. But their wishes are actually unrelated. Yeah. So I was like, what is this mess?
The writing is really the weakest part of the entire movie.
Yes, I agree.
You had the what's Catwoman? What's her name?
Cheetah, Barbara something. I can't remember. Barbara Minerva, which is a Greek name.
Okay. Cheetah. So Cheetah, you had that character who they show her not being able to walk in high heels or whatever. Yeah. And she's like a klutz with glasses. Mm-hmm. And then when she becomes Cheetah and she wishes for basically to be Wonder Woman, then she's able to walk in high heels and she has agility and stuff. But that's how they show it. Mm-hmm. And then she doesn't need glasses anymore. It's a wreck. It's a wreck, but I liked it. I don't know why I keep saying this. I think I enjoyed Pedro Pascal bleeding. Oh yeah. When he was having nosebleeds and his ear was bleeding, I liked every time that happened. I was like, wow, this is a great movie. and forgot about the rest of it. I honestly don't know what was going on with me when I was watching it, because I keep saying I liked it, but it was horrible. So I keep saying that a tighter version of this movie would be a good movie. I really feel like there's potential in there, like, because they have like 6 writers, like one or two of these writers were actually making something. The only ones I saw was Paddy and this guy named Jeff. You can find it.
It's Paddy. It's like Paddy Jenkins and then like 4 or 5 other names. Let's see here. Wonder Woman.
Jeff Johns. Okay, the screenplay was by multiple people, but the actual story, well, which is which?
That's a good question. Jeff Johns, really? Jeff Johns is okay. 2020, 1984. Because it wasn't just them. Do I have to go look at the credits of this movie real quick?
Jeffrey Johns. Who's that? I see 3. I see 3. I see 3 people credited for the screenplay.
Johns. Trying to see if I remember the correct name here. Oh, Jeff Johns. Yeah, Jeff Johns. He served as president. I think Jeff Johns is supposed to be like the guy who keeps everything straight for DCEU. I think that's who Jeff Johns is supposed to be. President of Creative, COO, CCO, Green Lantern. He's a guy. Yeah. Comic book writer, screenwriter, film and television producer. I think they were trying to make him the Feige of DC, if I remember correctly. Like Kevin Feige, or however you pronounce his name, is the guy who keeps all of Marvel straight. So I think they tried to make Jeff Johns the guy who keeps it all straight. But I'm just gonna open up the movie again, because I swear the credits are like a bunch of names for the writing. And now I gotta find it. But it feels like there was a better movie in here. Because Pedro Pascal acts the hell out of his scenes.
He does. He hams it up towards the end, but it was good. I liked his performance a lot for the most part. I just think that the way that they wrote him with his son, I think, was done poorly, but
I agree. By the way, he gets no consequences at the end of that movie.
Yeah.
No consequences.
He almost ended the world, but it's okay.
Yeah, and then we get no confirmation what happens to him. None. Like, we all know that, like, the world saw him and made wishes through him, but
Who knows? I mean, everything got reset, right?
no, it
Pretty
didn't.
much.
It just got undone. Like, there's no
Close.
mind wipe. There's no rewind. All they did was undo the nukes and undo the wishes. That's the interesting thing
Right.
is, this would be bold if the movies that happened later in history didn't happen. It was like, oh
Yeah,
man, the world got wrecked.
Yeah. First of all, the wishes were kind of all a variation of the same thing, almost. And
Oh yeah, a bunch of people wanted
like,
nukes.
3 or 4 people wanted nukes, and I understand that, you know, that was kind of the era, but also some of the people asking for it, it was just so generic and lazy, stereotyping basically. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, there was definitely stereotyping. Whew.
you know what I mean? You got this guy, you know, in a bunker with an AK somewhere in the Middle East, and he's just like, I want nukes, please.
Yeah, I want Iraq to have
Just like,
nukes. I think he said like something like that. I'm like, okay.
I want nukes to destroy my enemies,
Yeah.
you know, or like I think at one point didn't somebody say infidel? Yeah, the wall guy. The wall guy. Remember the wall guy?
Yeah.
The guy that raised the giant wall?
Yeah, the king of crude.
Yeah. All that stuff was whack. They, you know, another thing actually, because so this just speaks to, so we've had the insensitivity of launching a missile at children. We had the insensitivity of kind of Gal Gadot, you know, who she is, her background, and that scene.
Yeah.
The insensitivity of some of those wishes. They were honestly kind of like, well, okay.
Oh! Let's not forget the Irishman.
Yeah. I was just about to say.
Okay. Because she's like, they should all send you all back to your island, and he's like, I wish you're dead. And then literally cops with paddy wagons. The paddy wagons. I could not believe they made that joke. I'm like, are you kidding me?
The Patty Jenkins wagon came rolling in.
I was like, you gotta be kidding. That was silly.
So yeah, you have those insensitivities. Also, if anyone has seen this movie, I don't know if this struck you this way, but I thought you could tell immediately who wrote it and what their sensibilities were, because they did this stupid Hollywood thing where it's just bad writing that Hollywood likes to do sometimes, where so they took Barbara, who's white, and they gave her a friend, right? They gave her someone that she knew to like show you that she's a good person. Yeah. And that person was black and homeless. And the existence of that character, I don't remember his name. I obviously don't remember anyone's name from this movie, but but the existence of that character and how they were used in the story, where I found it pretty offensive, honestly. Because he only shows up when they need to say that she's a good person. Just the dynamic of that, where it's like, oh, you've got a white person. Oh, look, she's giving food to this guy who's black and homeless. Right after, by the way, I want to point this out. Right after she was basically assaulted, or attempted assault by some random white guy. Like just the racial politics of it and the politics of it in general, I found to be really awkward.
Yeah.
And mishandled, and it was just like, you could tell whoever was writing this, whoever was doing the bulk of the writing, is not somebody that you would trust. Do you know what I mean? It's not somebody that you would trust to handle a lot of these more sensitive or delicate things. Like, they didn't have anyone looking at it like, ooh, maybe we should look at that differently. Maybe there's got to be another way to do it.
Yeah, okay. So looking at it again, it's only 3 people. All right, so I think I just saw those names. Just saw there were more names. Okay, so it's just Patty Jenkins, Jeff Johns, and Dave Callahan. Which means, did all 3 of them write their own script? Okay, because that's what I want to mention too. Is I felt like, the homeless man is a very weird thing. Where she's got this black homeless man she talks to.
Yeah.
And he only shows them 2 scenes. One is, hey, and then she almost gets sexually assaulted.
Hey, I'm a good person. Here's some food. She almost gets sexually assaulted. And then later on in the movie, where it happens again, but she's a superhero, so she just straight up kills the guy that almost assaulted her. Now,
Yeah.
whether or not she should have, I'm not going to say, because you know what, this isn't really my conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the homeless guy shows back up right then.
Yeah.
And is like, "Hey, are you okay? Whoa, what's going on?" You know, that kind of thing. There was a callback. I forget exactly what it was, but I remember eye rolling at it. They used him as a callback in a way. Maybe it's just the fact
a reminder she used to be nice.
Yeah, I think that was it. He's like, "Barbara, what happened to you?" or something like that.
Yeah.
Just some stupid line. So much bad writing.
Because Wonder Woman tells her what her monkey's paw is. Wonder Woman's like, look, you want to be like me, so you got my power, and you got my popularity, apparently. Like, it's, that whole wish is weird, but like, she wanted to be like Wonder Woman. That's literally the wish, is I want to be just like Diana. That was her wish. I want to be that's what she wanted. But the
only problem is Diana's
power,
also good.
Yeah. But the whole idea is the monkey's paw, what Diana tells us, the monkey's paw part is, you're a really nice person, but you lost that. You're not a nice person anymore. That's the drawback of the wish you made. And then they make it she becomes a cat person later, which I thought becoming a Jellicle cat could have been the monkey's paw. Instead, it's not, for some weird reason.
Yeah.
Because I guess it wouldn't be ironic. So she gains all these good properties, but not the goodness that comes with it, which is like, okay, that's an interesting irony to go with, where power corrupts. Like, that's a simple monkey's paw. Power corrupts.
Yeah.
I want to go back to that scene really quick, though. Both of them. When she almost gets assaulted, Wonder Woman just shows up out of nowhere and saves her, which means Wonder Woman was stalking her for some random reason. But in the second one, she's jogging, and it just reminds me, this is something I hate about us in general, and that catcalling's a thing. I do hate that catcalling's a thing. So she's running, and guys are catcalling her, and more guys catcall her, and then that specific guy catcalls her, and she turns around, and then she beats the crap out of this guy. And it's like, what woman doesn't want to beat up a catcaller, right? But she beats the crap out of him, and she kicks him back down the path she ran. Suddenly, no one's there anymore. None of the guys who were catcalling her are anywhere when they were just hanging out. They weren't, like, on the way to things. They were just hanging out, which is really weird to me. And the only other person there is the homeless man. He comes running over. He's like, oh, that guy's messed up. Barbara, what's going on? Like, she's like, stay out of this. And he's like, what? Barbara, what's going on here? And just to remind her that she was a nicer person. That was the idea there. And, I thought just the monkey's paw was power corrupts. That's it. But the wish she gains is weird. She's like, I want to be like Diana. So suddenly she's really good at wearing high heels. Suddenly everyone wants to talk to her, which we don't get that from Diana. We don't get people are like, they're encapsulated by her. Like, we don't get that. But for some reason now, like, she's getting things that Diana doesn't get. And partially I was like, I would have accepted this a bit more if she was not Kristen Wiig. Because Kristen Wiig is a very attractive person. If they gave us an actually ugly person who's getting a ton of attention and everything, it was like, okay, magic's working. Because to me, it's like, yeah, if she just worked on herself a little bit, she'd have this anyway, kind of thing, because she's already an attractive person trying to play ugly, which is kind of offensive to ugly people. She's like, if she just had better fashion sense, if she just did her hair better, like, it's kind of an 80s lesson that we moved away from, which I'm happy with, where, if that girl with glasses and her hair up took that off, she'd be great, like She's the Man or something like that.
Yeah, that's terrible.
It's a very bad trope, and they did it.
There was a lot of just outdated stuff that they were doing, and I guess it fits because it's supposed to be set in the 80s, but
there's a reason why we don't talk about The Breakfast Club anymore. Like, there's a reason why we don't talk about those movies like we used to anymore. Because
Revenge of the Nerds or whatever.
Yeah. Oh god, Revenge of the Nerds. Like, our sensibilities now are different from then, which is why. Not going to go deep on that, but just that's kind of one of the problems with cancel culture is when they go after something someone did 20 years ago. Right. That was 20 years ago. That was a different sensibility. But
however, people should be canceled for what they were making in the 80s, quite frankly.
At the end of the day, it depends on what it is.
Right.
But yeah, there were some
A
really
well
bad
thought
things in
out
the 80s.
script might be worth canceling someone for.
But like there were some crappy things that are worth canceling over, and there are some things like, well, people evolve, so it's a case by case kind of thing. But with this movie, it felt like they were required to be 2.5 hours long, and they were just putting stuff in as well, and they just didn't work. Because that was the thing, was I looked, I was like, wow, this is 2.5 hours. And I look at Tenet, wow, this is 2.5 hours. Is that just a requirement now? I remember when 90 minutes was a requirement.
A lot of movies are too long now. If you ever see a good movie that's a little on the shorter side, it flies by. And you have all these movies now that are just, for no reason, way too long.
Yeah, there's something to appreciate about a movie that when they don't do any wasted scenes.
Yep.
I can't remember how long the one we talked about from the Korean movie.
Oh, Parasite?
Yeah, Parasite. That didn't feel like nothing really felt wasted in that movie.
No, there's no fat in that movie. I think it's 2 hours and 5 minutes, but
okay. But still, it feels tight. That movie went by. Parasite really went by.
It's 2 hours and 12, but yeah, same thing.
And then I'm trying to think of, I think it was Mad Max was like 80 minutes or something, which is so rare. It's so rare to be a short movie. To the
point, just straight to the point.
Yeah. But yeah, it suffered from being too long, and it feels like two ways. One is if they tightened it up, it could have been great. And another one is if they just made it 3 hours, they could have filled in the gaps that screwed some things up, or just made them better. I can't actually. No, I don't think you could make it better, make it longer. But it felt like there was too many things going on. Like, there's not enough time to make you care about Barbara. You just don't care about Barbara. She only exists for the third act. That's really all she existed for.
She was there. They just didn't really. It was. She was there for maybe 5 minutes as a normal person, and then she instantly becomes Superman.
I really liked her character up until like The Wish. Up at that point, is she gives Diana a character to be friends with. They're really hitting it off. Like, she likes her. She likes Barbara. Because you could ignore.
She's too klutzy, though. They honestly went for that trope, that klutzy trope.
They did. They literally just did the trope, and it's really annoying because that trope doesn't work. They made it that she's forgettable.
Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, they made it she's forgettable. Like, her boss forgets who she is. Like, how do you forget this person?
I think they went too far with it, because the part where Wonder Woman's like, "Oh, you're so cool," that felt like patronizing, you know?
Oh yeah, it did. Because
like, she does.
This is a problem movies have, and even shows. A lot of properties have, and that is they tell you a character is something without showing you there's something.
Yeah.
And in that scene, like you're complaining is, yeah, she says, "Barbara, you're so fun," and this and that. She's telling us she's these things because they just had a fun conversation instead of just giving us the fun conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it suffers from a lot of them telling us things, not characterizing things.
I think Kristen Wiig was well cast, but I think they lean too heavily, for sure, on, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm such a, like, I messed up," or whatever. You know, she had a bunch of characters on SNL like that.
Yeah.
And so I think I understand why they would cast her in the role for that. But having said that, it's a stupid trope. They went too far with it, and her character, her wish doesn't make sense. How, you know, what happens? Because Diana, that's the other thing. They give her, like, her physical attributes when she says, "I want to be just like Diana."
Yeah.
But they don't actually give her emotional, or, you know, her character too, which is weird, because in some respects they did, right? Because they tried to say, like, "Oh yeah, now she's popular, she's got charisma," or maybe it's just a side effect of being physically impressive or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they were trying to say, like, "Oh yeah, it's just she's a superhero now, and she's, you know, can wear heels, so now she's popular."
Yeah.
It's all very high school. It's a high school student's understanding of what makes someone interesting, or how somebody becomes popular. It's like, "Oh yeah, they can wear heels now, they're cool."
Yeah, it's very surface
level.
level.
They don't have glasses. They're like super cool now. Like, You don't get it.
Yeah.
Like, Barbara used to be lame, but then she stopped wearing glasses and she got her hair done. And now she's one of the cool ones.
It was very surface level for sure. Interesting way it could have been taken is what if she just became a second Wonder Woman? I don't know how that would go, but she just literally just becomes like either a clone or just becomes just like her, same fashion sense and everything. Like, oh, that's weird. But I don't think that would work. But it'd be an interesting bush for the monkey's paw. Like, they do some really bad things. Like, another one is just the random Mayan expert that shows up for a minute and then disappears. She's like, we need to figure out where this came from because this is God language. It's like, oh, this is an interesting mystery. Oh, random dude next to some store, some electronics store, has a book from his family from centuries ago. Somehow has this book from centuries ago, which is amazing. And she reads like, oh snap, it's this villain, and then they just move on.
That's such a DC thing to do. The DC movies constantly do that, where they have a scene that is so unnecessary.
Yeah,
like incredibly unnecessary. You'd never see the character again, type thing. I swear they've done that in almost every DC movie. Yeah.
I can think of a few. But just it's not great. It's not great. Not great. Everything with Pedro Pascal's character, minus his kid, works. Right. I think. Like,
yeah.
Because that is such an interesting concept. Like, I want to become the monkey's paw itself. I get to decide what is the positive version of this wish and what is the negative part of it, and make it be something that works for me. Where, like, a sentient monkey's paw is what he's going for. I'm like, that's an interesting idea. It's kind of silly what he does with it, but it's at least an interesting concept they tried to explore, so I'll accept that. Yeah. Because he's like, all right, so I'm gonna give you all this land, and you're gonna give me your oil. I was like, well, I already sold the oil. All right, well, then I'm just taking your men, and then they just get mind controlled to be his men now. And he's like, I'm gonna give you all the nukes you want, Mr. President, and I'm just gonna take all your power. I was like, all right, that just happens. Okay.
That was really abstract, though. I didn't understand how exactly he did that. I guess people listened to him. That was what they went for. But
yeah, it's like,
how does that extend outside of the Oval Office?
That's a good question. Like, because unless you know this person's the president, why would you respect them? I suppose is a good question. And they don't know who he is. Unless they just magically know, and that's just another problem with the movie.
It's not like he became the president. Anyway, I don't even want to think about that. That's such a stupid. The movie's too stupidly written to get caught up on hypotheticals.
Yeah, and then he magically finds his son, by the way.
Yeah. But having said that, Wonder Woman 1984, for some reason I kind of like it. I think it was mainly just the nosebleeds, and that's it. Because there's really no other explanation. I like Pedro Pascal bleeding out of his nose and his ear.
He's a good actor.
Becoming more and more disgusting looking. All these like nasty physical things going on.
I like that there were consequences to what he was doing. I really thought he was going to turn into a stone at the end. I thought that's what they were going towards. He's hurting because part of him is just crystallizing or something. I thought that's where he was going. And then he just rescinds the wish, and now he's okay, and he has his son. Like, well, okay. They do. Okay,
Oh, sorry, what?
Like, they just really quickly, like, oh, he's sympathetic, guys. He's sympathetic. Okay, I'll just believe you.
Yeah, I love my son. I love my son, even though, get out of here! I don't want to see him right now. It's Saturday again! It's my turn! He was yelling the entire movie about he hated spending time with his kid, and then at the end he's like, "Oh, I love you."
He was like, "What? What?" There's nothing telling us. There's nothing that tells us. Like, the whole movie told us that he doesn't like having a son, basically, and there's nothing that tells us that he actually is just secretly does care about his boy. He's like, no, it's just I don't like spending time with my kid, and that's it. And then we get to see that he had a crappy childhood. That's it.
I enjoyed seeing a character, though, in one of these movies that was a complete fraud, and that was his entire character, is this slicked back hair, kind of car salesman type. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I haven't seen Homecoming because I kind of boycotted Marvel because I was just bored of them.
Mm.
of those movies by the time that one came out.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just done with Marvel after the entire Avengers, arc. But yeah, so I didn't see that movie. Apparently, the villain in that one is similar, but I don't think from the clips that I've seen, it
Oh, Far
doesn't
From Home.
quite come across.
Okay.
Yeah, Far From Home. What did I say?
Homecoming.
Oh yeah, I meant Far From Home.
Yeah.
The villain doesn't seem to be that kind of, slick and silver tongued.
In a different way, he is. He's more of like. Yeah, I really like Pedro Pascal's car salesman stick. I like that. For honestly, I'd say the villain for Homecoming is kind of like a charismatic Steve Jobs kind of character.
Yeah.
Kind of like
Far
that.
From Home.
Mm-hmm. Far From Home, he's kind of like that. Yeah. And it's a fine movie. Like, that's a fine movie. Far From Home's a fine movie. Like, I forget his name. The guy playing Spider-Man. He's pretty good as a Peter Parker character.
Tom Holland. Yeah.
Yeah, Tom Holland's a pretty good Peter Parker character. It's a fine movie. Like, it's fine to just take a break from Marvel after Endgame. It really is.
Yeah, I'm tired of them. I was tired before the last couple movies, so maybe around the 10th movie, I was probably tired.
Dang, because there were 20 movies in that whole thing. There were 21 movies.
Yeah.
But for me,
sorry, I keep turning. I was just gonna say Avengers Ultron. That was the one that killed it for me.
I really like I forget his name right now. The actor who played Ultron. Yeah, James Spader. He acts the hell out of his scenes. I really enjoy him as an actor. Like, he has this control. Like, he can control the stage. That's what I really like about him, is when the camera's on him, the camera's his. That's what I like him as an actor. That's why the only reason why I watched The Blacklist is because he's such a good actor for that. But then eventually that show got too silly for me. But I think he's a good actor, so I liked him as Ultron. Because he just played the heck out of Ultron. But it wasn't the best movie. Ultron wasn't the best movie, so killed it for a lot of people. I get that. I enjoyed the whole ride. Maybe you could argue with the whole ride. Depends on where you say it starts. If you say it starts at Iron Man, but if you say it starts at Hulk, then maybe not. Well, no, Hulk being in there. No, I enjoyed the ride. I enjoyed the evolution of where it was to where it became. But I'm good taking a break right now.
Yeah.
From Marvel. Like, that was a 10-year run, and there's highs and lows, and I have a whole series just recapping that whole thing. And it was good seeing them all again and just seeing like where the potential was and what they follow up on and things like that. Overall, I'm glad watching the whole thing. Just going from start to finish on that, because that was kind of an event, a 10-year event to do. But I'm good not doing that again. Or, I don't know, not doing that for a while. Because obviously they made so much money, they got to do it again. And DC has been trying to do it, and they've been failing to do it.
Yeah, it seems like their strategy might shift, though. It might shift more because of the heroes that they're going to be dealing with and the stories. I think they all seem smaller now.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but it seems like they're more of going for like the B tier, and it's mainly because they're going to shift to Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's interesting what they're going to do with that, and I don't know how that's going to go, because none of the shows have come out yet. Oh, actually, I think WandaVision finally comes out, right? I don't remember.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know. Are there Disney Plus shows that will somehow tie into the movies? Yeah, right. That's kind of an annoying thing. Is there's going to be a bunch of Disney Plus shows that you have to watch for the movies. And, like, I wasn't able to keep up with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so I don't know. There's the Hawkeye show, which might still happen. There's WandaVision, which is happening right now, I think. Loki's getting a show.
It all seems boring. I don't know.
Yeah. Miss Marvel's getting a show. There's one more. And, like, as much as I enjoy the movies, I don't want to watch any of this. I don't know.
No, I don't either. But, I mean, there's a certain type of person that will watch it all, so.
Oh, yeah. like I want to watch it all, but I also feel like I don't want to watch it all. Because like I enjoyed the series of movies. I enjoyed that whole run,
Yeah.
and it's like that whole you have to watch it to keep up with it kind of thing. But I don't.
Yeah.
At the same time, I don't want to. So I don't know. I think I'll wait to see if anyone says it's good, and then I'll watch, kind of thing. It's like the same thing with Disney. I'm not gonna watch all these spin-offs, like we talked about it before. I don't really care about watching Ahsoka. I like Ahsoka. I'm not gonna watch her. I don't really care about her show. I don't really care about watching Boba Fett. I don't really care about the Bad Batch. They're trying to maximize their profits.
Yeah. That's fine though. I mean, it's put on Disney Plus. If someone wants to watch it, I'm sure there's. I know some of my friends are so excited about all this crap. Like one of my friends was saying, I thought it was really lame that the end of the season 2 finale for Mandalorian, you had a post credits teaser for a new show, and it's just, hey, this is coming out in 20 days or whatever it is. I thought that was stupid, and that completely undermined the emotional weight of the end of your the end of a season and the end of an episode and the end of an arc, basically.
I agree.
My friend was like, no, I thought it was cool. It was a cool way to announce it. I was like,
this is the problem of I think it's I can see both sides of it because I'm a Star Wars fan.
You have to pick a side. You have to pick a side now, and it has to be the right side. You can't get it wrong. Gun to your head, you have to pick the right answer.
Well, the right answer is it's stupid and cheap. That's the right answer to it. It was really cheap to put it in there. Like, it was very cheap to put a teaser for another show at the end of a show. Like, you don't do that with any show. That should not be a thing at all.
Yeah.
Like, the only teaser that should have been there was, like, here's what's coming up with Mandalorian 3. That's it. Not some other show. That's not okay. You gotta show respect to your shows. And it was not, I did not find it respectful to put in a teaser for another show at the end of Mandalorian 2.
Yeah.
Even if I was Boba Fett fanboy, I would not want that.
Not even like a Boba Fett will return thing. It was literally a scene, and then you had the date that it was going to come out.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I find that disrespectful to a show to do that. To like, hey, check out this other one. Yeah, no, that's not all right. That's not right.
And it was like you had the end of the episode, then you had the credits, and then 5 seconds into the credits, I think, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
It went right to the post credits, but it was really like before the credits even happened.
Yeah, if we're spoiling Mandalorian for anyone, oops, you've had your chance.
Although, did we spoil it?
We only spoiled it. Actually, we didn't spoil anything. Because that teaser's nothing special.
There's a TV show.
Yeah, there's a show. Yeah, we didn't spoil Mandalorian, forget it. I didn't mention what happens at the end of it. I thought the way it ended was fine, but it also worries me at the same time.
I checked out.
Okay. I think you're okay too. I think when season 3 happens, if it's great, then maybe someone will mention it to you, but if no one mentions it to you, that's fine too. I think it's fine to check out at that point.
Somebody, I'm sure I'll figure out from somebody if it's going to be good or not. But I think early on, after that 3rd or 4th episode, when they started going and setting up different shows, I think that's when I lost interest, and I never got it back. And the 8th episode was not what I wanted to see. I think the ending was interesting. And it's a cliffhanger, and it's like, okay, and that actually mattered. That mattered to me. But to me, the 7th episode was the strongest episode of the entire season by far.
Was that the Mayfield episode?
That was the one with Bill Burr's character.
Okay, yeah,
I don't know if it.
The Believer. Yeah, that was pretty good. That was good. Bill Burr surprising people with his acting ability.
Yeah, that was my favorite. I like Bill Burr a lot, but. Not for that reason so much. It just, I thought what his character went through. You had a lot of things going on. You had a heist that was exciting and engaging, and then you have like the inside the heist scene. You have the heist kind of going wrong, and you have this like PTSD like symptom in Bill Burr's character.
Yeah,
where he's having these flashbacks, and the general or whatever he was,
Yeah,
captain,
yeah.
saying the really disrespectful things about people he really cared about that died.
Mhm.
And that guy acted his tail off. That was incredible. That
Oh yeah,
the captain,
full believer in what he's saying.
oh, he was so gross and just perfect though, so
Mhm.
evil sounding and not overdone. It was just wow, this guy is awful. And then Bill Burr's character snaps
Yeah.
and kills him. It's like wow, okay.
Mhm.
And you saw the rage and sadness on his face, and he's struggling to comprehend everything, and he still hasn't dealt with it, and he kills him.
Mhm.
Great scene.
That was good, yeah. It's also interesting. Just there were heroes for a minute, and then they took them all out too.
Oh, you mean like when they came into the base?
Yeah, when they came in, they're the heroes, and then when they leave, they're the ones who ended them. Like damn, all right. It's very interesting doing that.
There was some interesting stuff too. With you had all these like Humvee type vehicles going through villages where they didn't belong, and you had people like throwing rocks and stuff at it, and yelling things and like saying how they shouldn't be there and getting dirty looks. It was very much visually reminiscent of the American occupation over in like Iraq. Just American forces being over there.
Yeah. It was a good episode, yeah. Is there any more complaining about Wonder Woman?
No.
I think we're good.
With Wonder Woman, I felt like there was a bunch of stuff, too many ideas. They tried some interesting things. Some things they tried, I wish they didn't try. And they didn't. It wasn't smartly done at all. With Tenet, I feel like it was smartly done to its downfall, essentially. To me, I watched that movie, and first of all, there's so much exposition that I can't believe. Speaking of too much fat and not, trimming stuff down, the first, I don't know, 45 minutes is just people talking to each other, and you learn there's another guy that you have to talk to. It's just that scene times 10. It's like, I need some information from you. And it's like, no, you don't need me. You need another guy.
I agree.
Go see that guy. Here's this guy. I'll tell you all about this guy before you see this guy. Okay, now go see this guy.
God,
so the guy goes and sees this guy, and the guy's like, okay, yeah, I'm not the guy either, but the guy that you need to see is a different guy. I'll tell you all about him. Here's what he looks like. Here's what he had for breakfast this morning. On and on and on and on. And then you finally go and see that guy. And then you see that guy, and you realize that's not the guy either. You got to keep going up and up and up, and it's just, it doesn't matter what they were doing, how they were doing it. It was completely ill-advised. I'm very shocked to see that was in the movie. Usually, I can't say that Christopher Nolan has had that problem in the past, where it's just people who keep talking about what the movie is about and what just extra stuff that didn't need to be there. My throat's dying.
We've been going for 2 hours. I feel like since I just watched it last night, if you want to give an excuse, the excuse is I think the spy world is just a lot of that. You just got to climb up the ladder one person at a time, and I think it was conveying that. But as a movie, you probably don't want that.
It wasn't engaging though. Christopher Nolan's never had that problem to me, where I usually if he does something, he's engaging, and that whole sequence was not engaging. I was actually glazing over. I wasn't paying attention to what was happening. After the third person or second person that happened to, I was out. I was out of the movie. I came back in, but
like I agree that it's a lot of you need to go. Yeah, but you just said it was like, is when he got to like the arms deal, he's like, this is not the guy, it's this one. I was like, are you kidding me? We're doing he's got to go to another person, and it makes sense because you if you're following breadcrumbs, you're following breadcrumbs, but at the same time, like Jesus, we're following breadcrumbs. I don't know. I think you could either way on that. It makes sense as a spy thing that you're not going to directly get the big bad from the start. Like, like, oh, we all know who the big bad is. He's right there. It's like, it makes sense that you've got to follow the path over. And I assume that's just what was happening in the writing in his head. He's writing, he's like, okay, well, he's got to get to this person. Well, who are the steps to get there? And instead of finding a shortcut to there, he just did all that. You can bring up Inception?
No, but the steps you usually see, the steps you usually see
are quick.
There's variation and
a montage.
Yeah, either a montage or there's a variation to it. This was literally the same setup every single time and the same conversation. And actually, it took about the same amount of time. I'd have to measure it out. I don't know the exact number, but to me, it seemed like the exact same time was spent the first time he thought he had the right person, to the second time, to the third time, and I think it happened either 4 or 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, that's kind of unacceptable to spend the exact same amount of time doing the same thing. That's literally just talking about somebody who's not in the room, only to then go meet them to talk about somebody else. Like in a movie, or anything, any creative thing, if you show an audience something and they know what to expect, the next time you do it, you have to shorten it. You have to find a way to do it quicker or to do it differently. Otherwise, it's going to make them zone out. And Christopher Nolan made a really rookie mistake, basically, by telling and not showing. First of all, that's literally the number one rule of anything in film, is you're not supposed to just talk about the thing, you're supposed to show. And so he just goes and has every character talk about other characters and describe them for you. And then the second thing is he ends up doing it where you have the same sequence 4 or 5 times in a row in the span of 30 minutes or something. It was a really long sequence. And every single time it felt roughly the same length, and it's fine that if you wanted to show, you got to keep going to the next piece. There's another piece, but you never understand what the organization is. That's, what the chain of command is. These people that he's looking for, you have no context. It's all abstract. And a part of that feels intentional. You've got the main character who's literally the protagonist. That's his name.
Yeah.
That's too, like, that whole idea, that's Christopher Nolan being too cute for his own good, I think. And the organization, you have no idea. Tenet, you have no idea what it is, what it does. The protagonist never really finds out. There's a lot of things that he just kind of pushes off to the side and says, oh, don't worry about that, that's not important. And you even get that explanation with the time the time traveling type stuff in the film, where he says don't think about it. You often get that line in time travel movies because if you think about it, it breaks down. So they oftentimes will, like, use that to justify. It felt like a lot of things in the movie he was saying, don't think about it, just keep it moving. But if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna say, hey, don't think about this, you have to have something to fall back on. And really, what were the characters in that movie? Because you don't get, there's no connection that I felt to any of them. Now, I could be wrong, but I didn't feel like I understood the protagonist. I didn't feel like I understood Robert Pattinson's character. I understood the Russian character, but that's just like a stereotype. The complete. That's, you've seen him in how many movies before? He didn't even try at all. That was not original. The wife character, the wife of the arms dealer guy, was she interesting? I didn't feel like any single character was interesting at all. But I love Robert Pattinson, so I didn't mention him.
Yeah, I like Robert Pattinson. I like the main two. You got very subtle hints of characterization. But I feel like, well, you get their names. Their names are just things. So he very much is telling you, these are tools to my plot. The plot's what's important to me. These guys are probably maybe the second to bottom of the rung or the bottom of the rung. The dialogue might be bottom of the rung. Like, the big idea is the most important thing to him. Even the music and the sound effects are more important than the characters, I feel. It really feels like, for Christopher Nolan, these characters are tools. I can go back to Inception about that too, where these characters, besides Cobb, I think no one else has names. They're the actor, they're the architect, they're these things. They're just pieces to the things. And it feels like the same thing here, where everyone is a tool to tell this story that he wanted to tell, and who knows when he wanted to think it. Like, this is definitely a concept he wanted to do. He wanted to try to do it, and here it is. And I can guarantee, with anyone watching the movie or just thinking about the movie, he's thought about the movie more than anyone else has. Like, there are probably a dozen whiteboards that he was working with, trying to understand what he's trying to do. And he put a lot of thought into it, but at the end of the day, I think he cares more about the concept and the plot than the characters who are conveying it. They were just tools.
And that's his problem. That's my problem with the movies. So my friend Lewis made a really good point to me when we were talking about it, is that there's a big difference between the movies that Christopher Nolan writes and the ones that his brother writes that he adapts, and the ones that he just adapts from somebody else. He is so much better at identifying what's cool and interesting about somebody else's work, and then making it into his own interesting idea and evolving that. He's a lot better at doing that, for example, because the other movie that he wrote, one of the other movies that he wrote was Inception. And that movie, again, I haven't watched that movie since it came out. And to me, at the time, it felt very cold emotionally. I didn't have a strong emotional, like it's almost there, but it's not quite there. And it seems like he struggles with that a lot. And what you're saying about character, like he just completely avoids it by using the, what do you want to call it? Just the nickname kind of placeholders for names.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like he just really doesn't know what to do with that stuff. And what I said on Twitter was like he gets so obsessed with the gimmick of the physics of the world and with the gimmick that he's going for. Okay, you got some people going forward, some people going backwards. That stuff is really cool, but at the end of the day, you need strong characters. If they don't have names, they need to at least have like reasons to care about them.
Like, the protagonist. The only characterization we have about the protagonist is he's trying to understand what's going on. He's our straight man. But he also does care about innocence. They hammer it into your head that he really cares about not harming innocent people. Because he says it at least at 3 different occasions, like, no innocent bystanders, right? You're not going to kill the pilots. You're not going to kill... Like, when they do the plane stuff with those guys acting like terrorists, he's like, you're not going to kill the I want you to not kill the crew. Like, yeah, we're just going to have them go on a slide and get out. It's like, they're going to be safe going down that. Like, he really cares about them not killing people. He does that multiple times. And he shows he's a competent spy, because there's a point when he gets caught and they're like, you told him where he's like, no, the first rule is to lie. It's like, all right, so he's a competent guy. But that's all he is. He's just this competent character. So he's not really... He does his stuff well. Robert Pattinson he's a bit of a more fun character. There's the scene when he takes the mask off and he sees it's the protagonist. He's like, oh snap, and he gives him the mask back. And you can see he's like, oh, okay, all right. Like, his character's a lot of like, I know I'm in this stuff and I just have to accept it as it comes. And he does show that emotion. You're like, oh shit, give me your mask back. I gotta go. I know I have to do whatever now because, whoa, that's happening. And even at the end, he's like, yeah, we've been doing some crazy time shit forever. Now it's time for me to go do the next crazy time thing. It's very much he's a man of the present. He's very much in the present. He's very much, well, I know I gotta do this next thing, so I'm gonna go do it. And that's just what he does. He keeps his head down and moves on. He keeps his head down and moves on. So he's a man about the present, whereas the protagonist is very much a man about the future. He's like, well, can we screw with it or not? Can we do these different things to mess with it? And you could argue the villain's a man about the past, who's very much stuck in, well, I don't have much time left, so I'm going to go back to when I was happiest, and when I die, everyone dies with me kind of thing. And so, like, Pattinson's a fun character in there in what he's doing, but aside from just good performances, there's not enough to make you give a damn. I did not care about this woman too much, whatever her name was. Like, but I could tell, like, because going in knowing there's time stuff does affect some of it, because she mentions there's a woman who jumps off the boat. I'm like, oh, that's going to be her later. And the only mystery that we knew was going to come up later was, well, because it's just Chekhov's gunning you. when he gets his life saved, he sees a dude with like some like keychain thing on his backpack, and I'm like, okay, who's that gonna be? That's gonna be somebody, but who's it gonna be?
Mm-hmm.
And then we see who it is. I was like, oh, okay. I assumed we were gonna go back to the opera house at the end of the movie. I really assumed we were.
You never go back to that, do you?
Yeah, they hand wave that, which is a bit of a problem. I think Nolan went, we'd be another half an hour long if we go back to the opera house. Let's just end it here.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. So he just hand waves like, yeah, we've been going on adventures for years, man. It just started for you, but we've been doing this for a long time. And I accept that, but it's not the best to Deus Ex it a little bit like that. But I accept it if you're going for this whole time thing, sometimes there are things outside the story that have to happen because it's a time story. And if you wanted to establish all that stuff too, it's going to be a longer movie.
Yeah, you have to give him some credit because the movie didn't completely fall apart. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a complete disaster. He is skilled enough at putting together really convoluted things. I struggled. Some people credit him with being very complex and being a genius and all that, but I honestly think he overcomplicates his own stories a lot of the time, more so than he's so brilliant that what he's dealing with doesn't have to be as hard as it is to make it work. But I think he gets in his own way a lot of the time.
But I think
with Tenet, it didn't fall apart. So I was impressed by that. Like, at least, by the end, it wraps up too cutely, kind of, but it's weird, or it's impressive that he manages to get things to the point that they are and not feel completely shoehorned in.
Yeah. I think what makes Christopher Nolan special is he does have a really good eye for cinematography and music. Like, his style with music is interesting because, usually in a movie, the music's there to play with your heartstrings. It's there to mess with your emotions. It's there to, when a hype moment happens, it's there to help you get hyped. When a sad moment happens, it's there to make you get sad. It's kind of a cue. Music is kind of a way to tell you, it tells the audience to clap. It's like that sign that says, hey audience, you should clap now. So music can tell you, hey, this moment is sad, you should feel sad. But what he does is, music is a character kind of thing. Like, music is part of the narrative. Because the first scene of the movie, I could tell, like, what was interesting is the music plays backwards at certain points in the movie. Mm-hmm. And when they're going forward and music's playing backwards, it's a clue that backward shit is happening at the same time. So the first scene of the movie at the Opera House is being played in reverse. That music, the Opera House, they're tuning their instruments, it's in reverse to give you a clue that this is going to happen in the movie. In the car chase scene, we get a little bit of that before it actually happens. We get some backwards music. I'm like, all right, so this is telling me some time shit's going to happen here. And then later on, when we get the other side of it, the music's playing in forward. And so it's something he does with music where he likes to do music as a clue or music as a character in his stories. So you have this, like, the big battle scene at the end is the music's being played forward and backwards depending on whose perspective you have, which was fun. And what makes it even more fun is knowing who made that music. It was the same guy who made the Mandalorian soundtrack.
yeah, sure.
Ludwig, because whatever his last name is.
Yeah, he's really good.
He's really good at his stuff. So it was really cool to do that. Like, another movie to use example is Inception. Inception, he's using the music as another character. When they're in the dreams, it's that one song is being played through all three levels. And you hear it at the speed that he wants you to hear it as, which was a very interesting usage of music there. So it's just a nice touch he has there. And I think positive and negative of Christopher Nolan is he's the guy who's trying to do crazy stuff and trying to make it work. And sometimes it doesn't work and sometimes it does. But I appreciate that he did it because Inception was a crazy idea and he went for it.
Yeah.
Tenet's a crazy idea and he went for it. And that's what I appreciate is he's trying to tackle these ideas and he tries to make it work. And it's not always going to land perfectly because he jumped off the deep end and he's trying to figure out the landing as he's going. And for the most part,
that's true.
You can argue the same thing for the Batman trilogy as well, where he did some ideas and a lot of them worked and some didn't. And Tenet's the same thing. And what helped the Batman series compared to like Tenet is these are established characters. So people do bring in some characterization when they're seeing these characters. Whereas here, these are fresh characters and there's not enough backing them up. There really isn't.
When he has to write his own characters, it's been true for all the movies that he's written. So I believe he wrote Memento, he wrote Inception, and he wrote Tenet. And every time it's just they feel so hollow.
Yeah.
This movie, Tenet, might as well have been a advertisement for some type of formal attire. You know, whatever, pick whatever Hugo Boss or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's just the suits were excellent, but but that's all they were. They were just people walking around in suits. It wasn't like a character that you empathized with and felt bad for. Nothing like that, really. The character, the wife of, what was it, Chekhov? Was that actually his name?
No, it's not Chekhov. I was like, we can go with that if you want. It was like it was
Sergei. Was it Sergei?
Oh god, what the heck was his actual name? It's like okay. I'll just look up the name.
Was that it? Was that it?
No. That's probably, he was a very Russian character. That's Tenet.
Andre.
Okay.
Andre. Kat is the
Andre Sater. Yeah. Andre Sater.
Kat is the name of the wife slash partner of the guy. She you know, sometimes I was like, okay, she's kind of a character. She realizes her own destiny there. Honestly, I kind of liked what was happening.
A problem was everyone was one note, very one note.
Yes. He's not a good writer. He just isn't.
And it's important to recognize your weaknesses and then hire someone to do this to strengthen that weakness. Like, he could be like, I wrote all this, and then I had this person punch up the dialogue or punch up the characterization for me because I can't do that. It's good to recognize your faults and strengthen that. There are great people who are capable of that. But I don't know if it's like because he's an auteur, he has to do it all himself or something. I don't know. I don't know if that's the hype into him or himself or what.
Usually he has his brother do stuff, but I don't know if he was busy or something, because I know he does Westworld. I'm not sure what's going on with him or why he didn't have him do it. You know, overall, I think it's an okay movie. I wouldn't recommend it, and there's no way I'm going to go back and watch it. Nope. Even though it's the type of movie that might get better with a rewatch, I'm just not going to.
There's a moment in the movie, by the way, with the car stuff, where one of the cars was damaged way early. I'm like, oh snap, okay. Like, there's clues to things that are going to happen later on, which was interesting. Or one of the cars was already damaged. I'm like, oh, okay, yep. And then that moment happens. And they make sure you see that happen. So I think it was very much on purpose. He made sure you saw that, which was interesting. I think it's the parts.
Yes, the parts where they let you in on how it worked, I really loved that. But the action was really the only thing that I found to be engaging in it. I wasn't engaged with the characters, the story. Didn't care about the Doomsday plot. Didn't care about anything, really, nothing. But I like some of the action sequences. Some of them, like the car chase, for example, is one of the worst examples of interesting action in that movie. The trailer part where it like crashes is cool, or it kind of crashes backwards. But just driving backwards in a car in time, it's not that interesting. It looks kind of wonky.
Yeah.
But even some of the fights were kind of weird too. Just certain things are cool in reverse, and some things are not. It
was entertaining watching how janky it was because it's going in reverse. I was like, they're trying to make it work, and so it's janky as heck, and it's kind of funny seeing it be janky. And then you have the battlefield at the end where it's like, everything's going to be going in both directions. All right? It's going to be going in both directions. This is going to be the jankiest thing possible. And people are complaining, like, you can't follow it. I'm like, could you ever follow a battlefield in any movie? Because you really can't. It's always a mess. Like, I'm not going to short Tenet on this. It's just like, let's take advantage of the fact it's going to be chaos and just make it ridiculous.
Yeah, I honestly don't think that confusion of how the mechanics of time inversion or whatever was the problem. I think the movie had way more problems than that.
Yeah.
It was hard to understand at first exactly, but there were enough scenes where they showed you they showed you it kind of in plain sight, where you could see somebody going in, somebody going out in one direction and the other. You got a sense enough to understand it and enjoy the movie. I don't think it was too confusing in that sense. Maybe the ending threw people for a loop, and then they were like, "Wait, what?" Something like that, because there were a couple things that were unsaid but implied by the ending.
Yeah,
two or three things.
We were given visuals to tell us exactly what was going to happen. I really feel like you don't need to watch it twice to understand it, unless you weren't paying attention. No. I guess. I think
you might appreciate it though. Yeah. You might appreciate some of the stuff. You might pick up. I'm sure there's so many things, like you said, of the car being already damaged. There's probably so many things where it's like, oh yeah, wait, because they're going backwards. This is true. Yeah. This blah blah.
I think what helped me is I caught everything the first time through, so I don't think I have to watch it again. There are movies where it's good to watch it a second time and a third time, because what happens is when you watch it multiple times, you get to focus on different things. Like the first time you watch it, it's the whole thing, and the next time you watch it, you notice things you didn't notice the last time. If you watch it a third time, you might just start focusing on a character or something. You're like, oh, okay, these little subtle things about them. Or like things like that. Because an example is, every parent knows Frozen way too well. So they really know like every beat of that movie because their kids wanted to watch that movie a bajillion times. So they know that movie inside and out, and they know all the little details, and they can appreciate something every time, or they can hate something new about it every time. And I think Tenet was a movie where the only reason to watch it again is if you blinked at the wrong time, I guess. Or if you just didn't see this thing at this point or whatever. But I think I saw everything, I saw all the little hints here and there enough to like, yeah, okay, I get it. This is a more cerebral thought of, I feel like it depends on how much abstract thought you have to how well you could handle the movie.
Maybe, yeah.
Because I think as generations go, we're given more abstract concepts to deal with. And older generations don't have these abstract concepts from their childhood to grasp onto. So I can see them not understanding some of these ideas. Because our generation and younger generations are given just all these different concepts, anthropomorphization of things, different time travel concepts. We're given non-Euclidean ideas. We're given a lot of just different ideas that are presented to us, and we just try to kind of understand them, and to an extent we can, that we can consume a concept like this. Because I'll go, let's say, 15 or so years ago, WALL-E. Pixar's WALL-E. It's a robot. It's an anthropomorphized robot doing things. And that movie is 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. The only reason why it's not 100% is because one reviewer thought, who the hell was going to connect with a robot, and just gave it a 1 star. His whole thing was, I don't see how anyone can connect with this robot. 1 star. Because the abstract concept of people like objects or anthropomorphized objects did not work for him. You're looking at one.
Wow. I am absolutely looking this up now. I'm looking up the review because I want to see if it's the guy who consistently gives negative reviews to movies that are praised really well.
Oh yeah, that's a thing. So I was looking at reviews of Tenet, and one guy's like, he didn't even do time travel right. I'm like, what are you talking about? What time travel movie does time travel right, buddy? There are ones that do time travel more believable than others, but what I appreciate is Nolan wasn't doing time travel the way anyone else did. He tried a different concept of it, and that was reverse entropy. Like, all right, that's at least an interesting attempt at doing something different. And I can assure that Christopher Nolan put more thought into time travel than the critic did. I really think there's just a lot of whiteboards that had a lot of marks on them from Christopher Nolan trying to figure out what he's doing.
I bet. I just think people will rush to give Christopher Nolan the genius.
I think they rush in both directions. I think they also rush to say the genius has lost it. But
to Christopher Nolan, I don't see a lot of people saying he's lost his touch or anything.
I saw a few of them.
There's people that don't like him, but I honestly think the majority of people, or let's put it this way, more than any other filmmaker working, people try to say that he's a genius, or do say that he's a genius, and are constantly looking to praise him at every turn. And anytime anyone has ever says anything about him, and I actually like him, but
Yeah,
I'm just saying, anytime anyone says anything like this movie's not the best, or he probably should not write his own movies, people go, no, you just don't. It's too complex. This was YouTube comments. I was reading YouTube comments, and it never should do that, but it was a masterpiece. People just didn't understand, and I'm sitting there like, no, I understood, but the problem is not the fact that it's too hard for me to understand. It's the characters. I couldn't connect with them. There's nothing there.
I don't think the concept was the problem.
Dunkirk's better. Dunkirk's a better movie.
Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think the concept was the problem with that movie. It was for some people. It was the characters. I agree with you on that. It was the characters. The characters were the problem. Yeah, Dunkirk, good movie. Did I talk over you when you mentioned Dunkirk?
No, I just
typed it.
So.
You just wanted to type it. Okay. Because that's the thought I was having. Was the one thought I was thinking is there's going to be the defense if you just didn't understand it, and I'm like, that doesn't work here. I don't really think it works here. I think it's the only way you wouldn't understand this movie is if you just didn't have the abstract concept down. That's it. But I think we've done enough film. Like, I think there's enough people alive who are going to get the concept, and that's not going to be the problem. Because it's not like some artsy movie where you just didn't get the art ideas. Like, it's more of he's trying to do this kind of complex idea, and if you don't get it, it's fine not to get it. I don't think that's the problem with the movie. It's really the characters are surface level. That's really the problem with the movie.
Characters are paper thin, and the exposition is 45 minutes long.
Yeah,
and it's all delivered through dialogue. From one character to the next.
I honestly felt like we had enough exposition with the Doctor at the start. I thought that was enough. They got a little too in the mud, or a little too in the grain. When the lady's explaining, so if a fire happens, it'll become ice. I'm like, that's too much. You're going too far. You went a step too far.
You know what's? Yeah, I think that came back later, but
yeah, it does.
It does. Why did they? We said it was like kind of a spy movie, but I find spy movies interesting. What happened in the first 45 minutes that would really qualify as a spy movie? There was like they scaled a building in an interesting way.
Yeah,
that was kind of cool. But what else happened? That would, there's talking. Are spy movies just talking? I don't know.
Well,
I don't think so.
It becomes this whole thing of, spy movies are a lot of talking. Like, it's talking, but I guess there's enough stakes to make you interested. Like the nebulous idea of we're going to save the world. Yeah, the nebulous concept of we're saving the world. We don't know what we're saving it from yet, but we're saving the world.
Yeah,
is a bit too nebulous, which hurts the stakes. And even when you get to the end of it, like, I didn't really feel stakes. Yeah, okay, they're saving the world from this thing that's going to screw with time.
Too big.
But
it's too big. I think Hitchcock once said that something about like if you put somebody's finger, in between a door and in between two doors basically, and went to like slam it, like a car door or something.
Mm-hmm.
The viewer would be like horrified at that, but you could show like a bomb going off and it just wouldn't even register. The damage wouldn't even register, even if it did untold damage.
Because one's more personal than the other.
Right, because one is just so you understand that feeling. You have a very good conception of what a finger in a door feels like, and you know how much that hurts. But yet, a bomb going off, it's too. I think it was Hitchcock. I don't know if he said. I don't think the example was bomb either, though.
Like Hitchcock could be because he was the master of showing but not telling. I'm like, he was the master of like misdirection and showing you things that weren't actually it, but it made you feel a thing. That's something I found interesting with the violence towards the wife. Is all the violence towards her, he does it, but you don't see him do it to her. The way that Nolan cut it. Like, he punches her and he kicks her, but you don't see him do the blows. You just know he did them. And I was like, that's an interesting choice there. And then I'm like, wait, is this PG-13? Oh, it's PG-13. All right, okay. very interesting to find it was PG-13 because there's violence, but there's not a lot of it at the same time.
No, yeah, and it's done in an interesting way. The set pieces were interesting, but
like I found it interesting. Like the protagonist is like, "Why does my arm feel weird? Okay, why is it? It's bleeding a lot." And like, and I just really want him to say like, "Oh, I really wish I didn't stab myself in a moment," like, because it was because he did it to himself. And like you knew he was going to be fighting himself. Like there's a point when you realize, oh, it's him fighting himself. At some point in the movie, you realize, oh yeah, that scene in the art area, it's them fighting themselves. There was good little characterization, but it's not, I guess, not enough. Like when they're prepping for the breathing, because they know they got to hold their breath for 45 seconds, that was a fun sequence.
That was a really fun sequence. That was one of the best ones.
Mm-hmm.
You had that. You had the scaling the building was an interesting set piece.
Yeah.
I liked the entire sequence where you had the two, you had like the window or the big glass wall, I guess.
Yeah.
And you had the characters going in two different directions. That was cool because you understood what was happening at that point. That was the one that really explained the whole time inversion thing.
Yeah. And
outside of that, I don't know what else was a really interesting moment. The painting thing was the best. I think you're right.
Like that was a good scene because that's just a straightforward scene happening there. When he's fighting himself after the painting scene is just kind of funny to watch, and I could watch that again just because of how janky it was. It was kind of funny, but also just they're trying to do this thing in backwards, and because they're trying to do it in reverse, it just looks funny because they're trying to make it work, and just on a different level, just trying to appreciate the actors trying to make that work was kind of entertaining. Because you have, like...
What would that scene look like if you actually hit reverse on it? I'm curious.
That's also curious, though, yeah. Maybe it would... Actually, it would just look janky both ways, maybe? I'm not sure. Because I assume both versions were done in reverse. They didn't just do one cut and then play it forward the second time. They just did it reverse both times. And so the actors have to exert themselves in some backwards way both times.
Yep.
And what was also funny for me was the journey of the gun. Like that gun that gets destroyed at the start of the fight, because it's the end of the fight. That gun travels with them the entire fight. And it was just funny, like, well, this gun's just going everywhere. It keeps getting kicked and picked up, dropped and picked up. Just funny, just the story of this gun's adventure with these two guys, with the same guy fighting himself before it gets destroyed, was funny to me.
Yeah, I looked it up. I'm gonna see if this is the one.
Like, there is a program you can use that can reverse a video for you. I don't know if Premiere lets you do that. Maybe. Well, you'd have to go in and chop it up and go backwards on it, probably. Don't know what else there is to say. Like, both Wonder Woman and Tenet are both flawed movies. Like, they're entertaining in a lot of ways, but they're also flawed in a lot of ways as well. And a frustration I have is people are like, well, Tenet wasn't great, so Nolan's done. Like, are you kidding me? That's not how this works.
No, he'll be fine. He just shouldn't write his own scripts.
Mm-hmm. That, or he can write them and then have someone punch it up. I think that's the way you can do it, is just, he has it, then he gets like a script doctor.
I think it actually works the other way, where he isn't usually the one writing. He might have an idea and then tell somebody the idea, hey, I want to make a movie about this, and then they go off and write it. And I think after that, he then is the guy that, I don't want to say punches it up, but he's kind of saying, okay, I'll take this, I'll take this, I'll take this, and then he reworks the script. That's, I think, how it works with his brother.
Okay. Because I'm not too deep on how it is. Like, because like everyone has strengths and weaknesses in what they make or what they do. Like for me, as a hobby, I've written a bunch of books, but the dialogue is atrocious in all of it. The dialogue is bad. The concepts are fun, the action's fun, but the dialogue's awful. If I ever wanted to like publish a book, I'd have to go to someone like, hey, can you fix the dialogue in this whole freaking book? Because it's just bad. I know I don't do good dialogue, and so I feel like if you know your weaknesses, you just find someone who can strengthen it for you. He's like, yeah, dialogue's my weakness. Like, can you punch this up? Can you make this dialogue better? But it still fits the characterization. So I feel like that's something he could do. Is this is like he's like, this is a pretty good concept. I got all these action ideas in my head. Can I get someone to just help me characterize it better?
Okay,
I don't know. Curious to see what he has next.
You can only pick one movie. Which one's better? What's the better movie?
Out of these two?
Yeah.
That's a hard pick.
Do you really?
I don't want to watch either one again, honestly.
Well, I'm in the same boat. The first 45 minutes of Tenet killed it for me, but maybe, I don't know. Tenet's less flawed, but I almost want to say I had less fun watching Tenet. I don't know. Some of it was fun. I loved, dude. The opening was in IMAX screenings because I saw it when I saw The Last Jedi. No, The Last Jedi. Is that the ninth movie?
Rise of Skywalker is the ninth movie.
Never mind. Yeah, that one.
Oh, that's
because they were showing the first 10 minutes, and I was captivated by the first 10 minutes of Tenet, and I was like, oh man, this is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I actually saw the whole movie, but yeah, so I don't know. What do you think? You have to watch one of them again. Which one do you watch? They're both messes.
Okay. I'll go with Tenet again just to see what details I might have missed.
Okay.
Because Wonder Woman I tried my best to take it seriously. And I kept getting pushed out of it by the movie itself. Wonder Woman kept pushing me out of it. I was like, it's like I'm trying to enjoy this movie. I'm trying to just be here, be present in the movie, and the movie just like, get out. I'm like, no, you stop trying to suspend disbelief. What are you doing? I don't know. I could probably watch Wonder Woman 1 again. I don't want to, but I could. 2, I can't watch again. I don't know. Like, there are movies where I'm like, you're good watching it once. And there's movies where I'm like, you could watch it again and again and again and again.
Would you recommend this to either movie to anyone?
I'd recommend Tenet as a single view. As a single viewing, I'd recommend Tenet. Because it's just an interesting abstract concept to at least explore once.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman, no. They could have had so much more fun with the wishes. They could have had better characterization with a lot of things. They could have had more Chris Pine, I guess. They could have had more... Pedro Pascal was pretty good. He acted pretty well. Chris Pine acted pretty well. They could have done more of that. They could have explored the ethics of what was going on with Chris Pine's character.
Yeah.
Because he himself was like, this ain't right. I know this isn't right. At some point, I got to get out of here. Like, I can't be in this guy's body.
He was more opposed to the idea from the standpoint of this can't last forever.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much, wait, I am in someone else's body doing things that they wouldn't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Or they can't consent to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, the ethics of it was, I think it was adding up to him, though. Maybe I'm inferring too much. But he was the only character that cared, honestly, about that fact.
Yeah.
She didn't care.
No,
she did not care. She's like, no, I want you, I don't care. And that was an interesting difference between the two of them. And they don't have they should have had an argument about that. They didn't really have an argument about that, the ethical question there. That could have been better. Like, yeah, I can't be this guy forever. Like, I died. I'm gone. It's been fun, but, you know, we had sex with this body, by the way. That wasn't okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Like, I understand him being wrapped up in the moment, the first night. He's like, I'm alive again. Last time I was alive, I was in a plane. I made a very big decision, and now I'm here. Here's the woman I love, and all this, and yeah, let's go. Let's go. And just the ethics of that is not the best. If it was, if the genders were reversed, oh god, we would be hearing about it.
Yeah. No, really. That was really messed up.
Yeah, like, I feel like we'd be hearing a lot more about it if it was different. If it was, like, I guess Batman, and he wished back a girlfriend or something. And they went at it. And he's like, oh no, that ain't okay. That ain't okay at all.
Yeah. That's completely fair. I think you're right, and yeah, there's a lot of insensitive stuff that it just wasn't handled well. You know, like when you think of a great comedian, they handle stuff that is difficult to talk about, but they do it in a funny way, and they avoid all of the pitfalls that someone who is dumber and less capable would stumble in. You know, like all the hangups that people would have about talking about it. They find a way to construct something so that you don't have those issues.
Yeah, like
and then when you think of Wonder Woman, just and how it's written, it's the same kind of idea where you have all these controversial kind of things, and instead of avoiding the hangups, they literally fall flat on every single spot that you would be like, oh, look, watch out, don't hit that. Nope, ran into it.
Yeah. It just feels like they didn't think about it, or they just didn't have a person look at it and go like, this ain't right. This is also not right. This isn't right either. That's not good either. I don't know. They're also fast tracking the third movie, by the way. I saw
that, yeah.
They're like, it was such a big success. How do you gauge success with a streamed movie?
I don't know. They must have a way to do it, but I found that surprising, actually, because from what I can tell, it doesn't seem like it didn't do well in the theaters that it was in.
The problem is, I don't think you can judge things on the first night or like first week, because that is just how well did you, like, because the first week I feel is an indicator of how well you did in advertising. Like, I think the first week is the indicator of how well the commercials did, how well the hype people did, not how well the movie did. I think weeks 2, 3, and 4, whatever, are an indication of how good a movie is, because if you drop off or climb up after the first week, it's because people were like, oh, this was really good, you got to check it out. Or they're like, this sucked, don't check it out.
Yeah.
Because I ended up, I forget what movies I avoided and what movies I'm like, oh, this is good, and no one's talking about it. I'm going to talk about it then. There's been movies like that. I'm like, this is worth it. And it's rare, but there are movies where the first week didn't do jack, and then it climbed up.
Or finding a life afterwards, after it's
like cult followings.
Yep.
There's also that. So I really feel like the first week's just an indication of how well the advertising was. Like, Wonder Woman also it's just people watched it because maybe they just had HBO Max, or what else are they going to watch right now? Because I spend, let's say, maybe $200 on movies a year. I go and watch movies. That $200 didn't get spent this year, so I could do, which I did, was HBO Max to watch Wonder Woman. I can do that because that movie theater money didn't get spent. So that's the same thing with a lot of people. They're like, well, I didn't go out to see movies, so I can do a HBO Max for a month to watch this movie. And I'm sure that's what happened. Because it's the same thing as Netflix going like, this was when Bright happened with Will Smith and the ogre guy. He's like, they're like, this is the most viewed movie. This beats all the box offices because by our math, it does. It's like, no.
And there's actually questions about how exactly they even measure a view.
Mm-hmm. Like, is it just the first minute? Do you watch the whole movie? Did you watch 90%?
Honestly, I think they might even be just, did you look at the poster on Netflix? Like, did you examine it with your eyes? And if you did, yep, you saw it.
Yeah, I wonder when they do the autoplay ads, if they count those. I really wonder about that.
I'm sure they're not being honest about it.
Because the whole thing is fake it till you make it. Honestly, it's a lot of fake it till you make it. So it's like, yeah, we have these great numbers, so more people will want to watch it, and then the great numbers actually come true.
Or just to look good, because you gotta keep the stock price up.
What's interesting, though, is you're legally not allowed to lie to your stockholders. So when they have those big stock meetings, they have to tell the truth. Like, okay, we inflated these numbers for advertising purposes, not, not to do this or that, but there you go.
When I'm saying they're not being honest, though, like what you're saying is, I mean, we're both kind of saying it, but they're finding different ways to define watched.
Yeah.
That aren't necessarily, when someone pays for a ticket, they go in and watch it. Mm-hmm. They might leave or something, but 99% are sitting through and watching the entire thing because there's a commitment to it. Whereas with streaming, there's no commitment. You have no idea if someone's going to stick around and watch the whole thing, how long they watch it for. And so when they say someone watched it, you really have no idea what that means.
Mm-hmm. Like they could have just had the movie on and did something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an unfortunate thing, but they try to hype it up, and it's like, well, some people will buy that, and some people will not buy that BS. And so I feel like they're more shooting themselves in the foot, thinking Wonder Woman was this big success. Because I don't have any interest in seeing a third right now. If that's what they're doing, I don't want to see a third at the moment. Like, I'll wait and let everyone else tell me if it's worth watching. Because that's what happened here. I'm like, 84. I'm like, I'll wait and see what everyone else thinks. Oh, Titanium Steel wants to rant about it. Well, I better watch it now. That's the only reason why I watched it. Is because you're like, you want to talk about it. All right, I'll watch it.
Yeah, I don't want to see another one, but they're gonna do it. It's the same, they got to keep these things moving. Who knows what they'll do with the rest of the characters? But poor writing job. I actually was disappointed because Patty Jenkins, I actually thought really high of her after seeing Wonder Woman, because she made a lot of good decisions in the first movie, and I don't know what happened in the second one where she was just not there, or she was in charge of too much. I don't know what happened, but that's disappointing, especially thinking about her potentially doing a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Or she is doing one, I think, right? For sure.
Until until Disney decides to cut ties again. Like they keep, like, we're gonna have these directors, not anymore. We're gonna have this director, not anymore. I don't know anymore. One thing, I don't want to give him credit, but apparently Zack Snyder had input on Wonder Woman 1 and had no input on 2.
I saw that, yeah.
So I'm like, I don't really want to entertain that too much, but I don't know. Maybe it is having another eye on it. But also, I argue too many cooks is bad, so I don't know.
I wonder if his input was from a action standpoint, because the Wonder Woman action of the first one was very much like what Zack Snyder likes to do.
Yeah.
With all the slow motion stuff. There's like time ramps and things. I don't know. And then, that felt more like Zack to me than anything else in the movie.
Yeah. Well, 2's action was not that great. Like, there's a split on the mall scene. Some people really like it, some people don't. I'm like, it was okay. It was okay. It wasn't fully thought out because it's just the silly things we already brought up, like just dropping them on a police car. What? See Spider-Man doing that? That'd be a dick move. Like, that ain't right. Yeah. Or just like to keep it a secret. Like, to who? Also, the invisible jet was hilarious. I was like, they're gonna have the invisible jet? Are you kidding me? Well, the problem with that whole thing. Yeah, the problem with that whole thing is, how does Chris Pine know how to fly a jet? He shouldn't know how to fly a jet. He knows how to fly a plane.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for him to be like, okay, we're here. And I was waiting for him to grab a manual, or I was waiting for her to tell him how to fly a jet. Because Wonder Woman flies a jet in the comics, which means she knows how to fly a jet. Because, as we saw, she's obsessed kind of with not getting over him.
Yeah.
She had a ranch in his name, which I assume the ranch is supposed to be this is where she was during World War II. I thought they were going to bring up World War II. She's like, there was a second World War? I thought the first war was the one to end all wars. I was waiting for a joke about that, but nothing.
Do they not have that joke?
No, they didn't mention World War II at all.
Oh, okay.
I was hoping for... Also, how did she get access to a jet? It's not explained very well. But she just puts up a badge and then they have a jet all of a sudden, but people aren't okay with her flying it. I don't know if they were stealing a jet or if she somehow had access to one or what. That was not characterized very well.
It seemed like she just walked in and stole one from the Smithsonian or whatever.
That was my guess. It was a Smithsonian jet. It's the only guess I've got. But usually they don't give you a functioning jet.
Yeah, why was it working? I just don't quite. Whatever. I can't think about this movie anymore.
Okay.
I'm exhausted having talked about both of these movies that are bad. Or not, I shouldn't say bad, but whatever. Yeah,
they're
I'll say
right.
bad.
I'll say they're all right. Like, there are bad movies out there.
I take back what I said about Wonder Woman. I didn't like that movie. Genuinely, I liked the only thing, because I keep going back to this, the only thing I really liked was seeing Pedro Pascal bleed.
Yeah, you keep bringing that up. Like, it was a good consequence, I felt.
it was just fun. That's all. It was just fun. So
At the end of the day, fun's important. If you're getting that, you're getting that. So
that's it, Scarf. I can't even speak anymore. My brain is done. I never want to talk about these movies again.
I appreciate that you tried, because you said you wanted to do 3 hours, and we're almost there. So
wow,
we can stop now. That's fine.
We're good.
So it was fun talking. I cannot believe we talked so much, and we really talked a lot about these movies. Happy New Year, everyone. This is recorded on the 1st of the New Year's. I'll get this out as soon as I can. Other things are happening, and I'll try to get plenty of guests on the podcast in the future. But of course, Smith will happen again. No, Titanium Steel will happen again. Titanium Steel lasts.
It's just a bit.
It's
a completely
the bit for
unexplainable
bit. Bits happen. But yeah, well, you'll be on sometime in the future again. I'm sure. I don't know what movies are coming up. I don't even know. Like, the schedule got effed by the pandemic. I don't know what's going on anymore.
Probably the Disney Star Wars stuff again when that starts up. I'll watch one of those things, and that'll probably be it.
I don't know. Maybe I'll check out the Boba. Maybe I'll check out Ahsoka. I don't care about the Bad Batch. I don't know. The one thing to appreciate, though, at the end of the day, is we have an embarrassment of wealth of content we can enjoy. That's the one nice thing. We're in an age where there's so much we can watch that we...
Too much.
Yeah, there's too much. That you just got to pick something and go. Like, there's just too many things to enjoy. There's a fandom for everything. So there's someone to talk to about whatever you want to watch. So that's nice. Like, you don't have to watch everything. There are people who are there like, you got to watch this. I can talk to these friends about this. You got to watch it. Like, just pick a thing and watch it.
Yeah.
Before you don't watch anything, because that also happens.
All right.
But there you go. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
And we'll see who our next guest is. So I had fun. Hope everyone watching, that's what's all about, isn't it? Having fun. Thanks for coming by, and see you next time.